There's no time.
Lost. Times.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Here we are, it's Saturday.
Yep, we're here.
Again. Where else would we be?
Man, we need to fucking... I want to start going out on Saturdays. We need to fucking change the show to Fridays next month at least.
Well, it almost is next month because I think isn't tomorrow the last day of February? Because February is a short month. It only has 28 days.
Okay, that's right.
So we might be getting into March.
All right.
I don't know. We might decide to move it to Friday this coming week.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it goes.
Looks like T just came in.
Yeah.
So did Soph. Sess is in. Michael Schaefer's in. Deborah's in.
Everybody's
Sandra,
here, it looked
everybody's
like.
showing up, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Everybody's here for Saturday.
Yeah. Sabrina's in. Bee's Nest. DJ Maniac. Okay.
Yeah,
All
everybody's here. Everybody's here.
Yep. Today's going to be a pretty good show. It's going to be a true crime show.
Yeah, we hadn't done one of those in a while.
Texas,
I will say, Texas Killing
Fields.
I will say that what ended up happening with the Patreon poll, the votes, there was actually a tie between Texas Killing Fields and Phoenix Lights. But because we hadn't done a true crime show in so long, I was kind of like, well, I'll flip a coin and see. But I really would kind of rather do Texas Killing Fields because...
Jenny doesn't like UFO stuff.
Well, yeah, and plus, like the past few weeks, we hadn't really done a lot of true crime. We'd done a lot of cults and like other kind of stuff. So I was like, I really want to get back into doing true crime. The weird thing, I've had a lot of people request us do Texas Killing Fields, and I thought for a long time that we had done it already. But I think the reason that I thought that was because I had written about it in my book, in Faceless Villain. Yeah. So I was real familiar with the case, and that's why every time I read about it, I kept thinking, it's like, we must have done this before. But I guess I did a search, and we didn't.
Phoenix Lights is going to be good, though. That's still going to be a good case. There's something that went on there.
Yeah,
the governor and shit fucking confirmed that he saw it. A lot of people saw that. You know, the 911 call centers picked up a lot of shit. And there's stuff that the Air Force did that fucking real suspect. You know, looks like a psyop on top of it, try to make people not believe that something happened. I think something happened there. Just they didn't have an explanation for it. They didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah, one of these days we'll get around to doing that.
Yeah.
It's just, like I said...
There's a lot in that case, and a lot of it's misinformation. Like the flares thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a video of fucking flares. That looked, that's probably flares. But why were flares being dropped so close to that city? And it was after the reports came in. There's a lot of little details. It looks like they went up and dropped some flares after the report, so they could say, "Oh no, you just saw flares," so they could confuse the issue.
Yes, they went up there real quick and put some shit that could maybe be UFOs.
Yeah, and it came back down and says, "No, you saw some flares," but the time in which they photographed those flares, that was like several hours after the initial reports of it in that location. And there's some shit.
Thank you, Dermot.
Yeah, thanks, Dermot.
London calling.
Yeah, thanks, bro. And there's some shit in that. There's some shit in those videos that does not jive. It doesn't add up. Some of it does not add up to flares. I've seen. You can't see the smoke coming off the top of the flares, and that's just every time I've ever seen any military flares. You can see the parachute and you can see the smoke. Now, video quality may not have been good, but still. And those things, the distance in between those flares is fucking constant through the whole thing. And it's never like that in reality. The wind blows them around in random places. I mean, we can get to that on that show, but no.
Yeah, maybe we'll get to that.
Something happened. Something happened. There was a big old fucking aircraft. Some kind of large craft flew over it that people thought was extraterrestrial.
Tila says she's drinking vodka and grapefruit.
I'm drinking vodka with pineapple and mango and guava, all in the same, with a little bit of lemon juice in it.
Fruity.
Yeah, it's like magic punch.
I have a creamsicle.
Yeah, I made her a creamsicle.
Whipped cream, vodka, and orange juice.
Yeah.
And ice.
Running low on orange juice, so I don't have enough for her to have orange juice. So I'm drinking punch.
I didn't even know you had punch in there.
No, I made my own punch.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
right, because you got all those other.
Yeah, I got all those little
fruit
juices. Yeah.
These
I
nuts
know.
says I can't drink alcohol. I got ulcers.
Yeah.
That sucks. But you know, what are
Okay.
you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Tila says that's a Hawaiian cocktail, Tom. I know. He was
Yeah,
saying
basically.
you should put like some fucking umbrellas and shit in there.
Yeah, make that shit fruity as fuck. I'll put a damn slice of pineapple on there with
Yeah,
a
put a
fucking
big
umbrella. Let everybody know that I'm in fucking Florida.
Put a little rubber shark on
yeah,
there.
rubber shark.
I
Yeah,
used to love.
cherries and shit.
Wasn't it? I think it was. I want to say that it was Red Lobster. Maybe I could be remembering it wrong, but I feel like they used to have this cocktail. It was like really. This is probably back in the 90s. They had this really big tall cocktail, and it was blue.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure it had a rubber or plastic shark on it, like for a garnish.
All those blue ones are good. They're kind of like a coconut flavor, like a pina colada flavor.
Yeah.
That's what you get at damn Chinese restaurant, the Flaming Fun Bowl.
Yeah, I'm into that.
Fucking blue. The blue Hawaii. You know, and it's a fucking big old fucking bowl, and in the middle of it is a glass floating, and it's on fire.
There's a bunch of straws and
Yeah, a
shit
bunch of
sticking
straws
out
and
of
shit.
it.
Fucking plastic swords with fucking
Little
fruit
hula
on
girls.
them and shit.
Just make like a drink with all this ridiculous shit.
Yeah,
sticking out the
ridiculous
side.
shit. In there.
Oh my god. But yeah, so so I don't know if we have any shout outs particularly because I don't think we don't have any new patrons or anything like that.
Okay.
One thing I did want to shout out, look at this, because when we did the Dark Disney show, and remember I told you I got super obsessed with the history of the Haunted Mansion, both
Yeah.
in Disney World and Disneyland. So I ordered this book and it just came today. So I'm very, very excited. I'd like to get to read this unauthorized history of Walt Disney's Haunted Mansion by the guy that runs the Doom Buggies website.
Yeah.
So he's kind of a Haunted Mansion connoisseur.
Louis
like an
Hernandez
expert.
in. What's up, Louis?
That's how you get your 5 fruits and veggies. That's
Yeah.
right. It's healthy. That's what I figure. I figure this is my fruit this is my vitamin C for the day.
Fucking Tila saying I should have worn one of those Hawaiian lays around my neck.
Right?
Yeah.
I used to
Look,
have
it
one,
should
but I think
look hokey as fuck.
oh come on, it would be
Look
funny.
cool, and I'll put one of those Hawaiian shirts on. That's the other fucking coast,
Straw
though.
hat. You could do
That's-
some like Jimmy Buffett looking
Yeah.
shit.
What's funny is that they'll put that shit on, but fucking Hawaii's far from fucking here, man.
It is.
That's far away.
It's very far away.
Wrong ocean.
Wrong ocean.
Wrong ocean.
But yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I kind of wanted to get back into doing the true crime because we hadn't done any in a while. And like I said, this is a case that has been requested multiple times, and I thought we'd already done it, but we didn't. I talked about it for my book, so I thought we had already done it. Yeah. Now, in preparation for this, Tom watched the 48 Hours about it. I also watched the 48 Hours about it. I also watched Dark Minds, that one with that like really over dramatic dude that talks to Raven the serial killer. That one I watched that. I also watched the 2.5 hour Time Suck episode on this, the podcast. I watched, I don't know why, but the fictional movie that was kind of based very, very loosely based on this case, which came out in 2011. It had Sam Worthington and Jeffrey Dean Morgan in it. He played Negan on Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So they were in it. It was highly fictionalized. Good movie, though. It was on Tubi. It's on Pluto TV, too, for free if you want to watch it. And where most of this information came from, because one thing about the Texas killing fields that's very frustrating to me is that the Wikipedia page, and I know it's Wikipedia, but the Wikipedia page is real threadbare. If you look up Texas Killing Fields location as opposed to Texas Killing Fields the movie, it has this chart of all the victims, of which there are many, and it just has a couple of sentences about, hey, they were last seen at this store and then their skeleton was found like 6 months later or whatever, and that's like all they said about the victims, and that kind of bummed me out. So probably the definitive book on this case, although it's been a while. I think it came out, the first edition I think came out in 2011, and then there was another volume in 2014, or second edition, is called Deliver Us, 3 Decades of Murder and Redemption in the Infamous I-45 Texas Killing Fields by Catherine Casey. So I actually bought the ebook version of that for $3.99 or however much it was, and I read that because I wanted a lot more detail about the victims particularly, and other shit about the crime scene, because even on the Wikipedia page they don't even really say like how the victims were killed, which to me seems a pretty significant detail to leave out. So yeah, I read that, and it's really, really good. I recommend it. I will say though, because it came out, I guess the second edition, I think in 2014, 2 of the victims that were unidentified from a long time ago were actually identified in 2019. So they're still referring to them in this book as like unidentified victims, but they have been identified subsequently. They were just identified last year. So, if you keep that in mind, that there have been a few updates in the case since the book came out.
We're going to talk about all the known victims too.
Yeah, it's actually really good. And some people that maybe got away from the shit.
Yeah, and suspects and people who were arrested.
Yeah, because this... Yeah. So if you don't know, I guess we might as well just go ahead and get right into it, because like I said, I don't think we have any other shout-outs particularly. No.
The Killing Fields is a place in between...
Houston and Galveston.
Houston, Galveston. And it's kind of like the Bermuda Triangles of body dumps. It's just there's a lot of bodies that were dumped there in the past 40 years. And they don't know how many of them are connected. They know they're not all connected because they've caught several guys doing it out here over the years.
But a lot of them are still unsolved.
But a lot of them are still unsolved, and a lot of them were kind of done in the same kind of time clusters around the same time. And it's weird. I think there's at least 4 or 5 guys dumping bodies there.
Although I will say, and I don't think this is a spoiler alert necessarily, but I think a lot of investigators do think that of the roughly 11 murders that took place in the 70s, like from between 1971 and 1978, I think it was, most detectives, I believe, think that those were all committed by the same person.
One guy, yeah.
And we'll get into who that is. Who it probably is later, although he was never convicted of it.
Probably died before they could figure. They couldn't pin it on him?
No.
Okay.
But, the murders continued into the 80s, 90s. There were even some weird shit that happened like in the early 2000s that I don't know if is related. But, so this is multiple serial killers that are using this small area. I mean, really, when they're talking about the Texas Killing Fields, they generally mean it's about a 25-acre area. It's basically, like I said, it's between Houston and Galveston, which, if you're not from the U.S., is on an island off the coast of Texas. So it's along Interstate 45, which is, the main highway that goes between those two cities. And it's weird because, Houston is a massive city, but you go a little bit outside of Houston on Interstate 45, and there's kind of like all these oil fields, like refineries. There's all this marshland, so there's like a lot of empty area. So it seems like sort of the serial killer's perfect shit. I mean, you can be anywhere around in the area. You can grab somebody, sadly, kill them, drive a couple of minutes off I-45, dump the body, get back on I-45, and you'd be fucking gone. Then no one would ever catch you. And that seems to be what has been happening at least since the early 1970s. So this is kind of another thing. I think I mentioned this a while back when we did the show about London, Ontario, serial killer capital, in the 60s and 70s. I feel like this is a case where it's kind of like a perfect storm of geographical factors that make it really, really appealing to people of, let's call it, serial killer proclivities.
It's an ideal dumping ground.
It is.
If you look at it, if you look at aerial photographs of it, or you look and see what the terrain looks like, when you're on the ground, you got a freeway, one freeway going one way, another freeway going another. And they both have access to fucking basically kind of like, it's not a wooded area, but it's probably grassland to be away, or marshland.
Yeah, it's marshes.
Marshland,
it's,
what you call it.
It's kind of bayous, yes. All that kind of shit.
So no matter which way you're going, you have access to the wooded area, or the grasslands on either side of it. so you can get off the road and back on the road very easily. And it's just unpopulated, so it's gonna make a good dumping ground. You know, if you're gonna use it in the middle of the night. You know, which I guess it's in the middle of the night when they do the dumps. You know, nobody's ever been seen.
Yeah, which to me is like pretty
probably
weird.
Middle of the night, probably.
But as I said, if you see pictures of the area, I mean, they even call that stretch of Interstate 45 the highway to hell.
Yeah.
Not only because of all the serial killing, but also because there's like a really lot of accidents on that road too. Like a lot of fatal accidents for whatever reason. So it's not a happy area all around. Also, I think too, one factor that was brought up by a few of the investigators was that because Houston is such a massive city and, you know, they have so much, you know, they have a bunch of oil refineries, they have a bunch of heavy industry that tends to attract contract workers, you know, or people that are transient. They just kind of come into the town, they work for a few months for, you know, on a contract, and then they move somewhere else. So anywhere that you have a large population of people who don't live there year round, that are just kind of coming and going, I guess you're going to see this type of activity as well. Like I said, I think that was the same thing that happened with London, Ontario in the 60s and 70s, where it was just like this, you know, this large populated area, but they hadn't really had any connection until like they opened up this big highway, and then all of a sudden, you know, all this new prey opened up, like to look at it from a serial killer standpoint. So I guess that's what you're seeing in this situation. So from the canonical, I guess, Texas Killing Fields murder, there were some other that were kind of on the outside that maybe are connected, maybe not. I mean, it's horrifying how many fucking bodies have turned up, how many disappearances have turned up just in this, you know, relatively small area. So starting in the early 1970s until about the mid to late 90s, with, you know, a couple more like later on, there have been at least 30 bodies, all girls and young women, most between the age of 12 and 25, that have been found in here. There have also been a bunch of disappearances, you know, whose bodies have not been found yet, but we're presuming that that they are connected as well. Like I said, there's got to be at least, I mean, just from the people they've caught for some of these, other than the people they've caught, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I mean, there's got to be at least fucking 7 or 8 of these motherfuckers running around, and a bunch of them they haven't caught yet.
Yeah.
Which is horrifying. It's horrifying. How many of these, like, fucking scumbags are running around. It's scary.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about the ones that they caught.
Yeah.
One of them was from Louisiana.
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into that, too.
Right.
Michael Schaefer says, B's in Texas. He can tell you about the chupacabra. Maybe the chupacabra is doing it. I don't know. That would be just as fucking explicable as the rest of this crazy shit.
And they're amazed that we're already on topic and that we haven't been sidetracked yet. And we're already talking about the case this early in on the show.
I'm amazed, too.
Well, everybody showed up early, too. You look at, you know, everybody showed up, and, you know, so we got a decent crowd. And we didn't have a lot to talk about in terms of, we didn't have shout-outs. So, you know, we just go ahead and get on it. And this may be long. And we're having computer problems, so
yeah,
we gotta get on this case and get cracking, because we're gonna detail each victim, everything we know about each victim.
Like just a little bit, you know, because I at least
not a lot, but all the details.
I at least wanted like more shit about them than was on the Wikipedia page, because
Right.
like I said, even on the Wikipedia page, they didn't even say how most of them died, you know, which is kind of shitty.
Mostly strangulation, isn't it?
Not always.
Not always.
They're
okay.
all just
all different.
Different.
Okay.
Not all of them were different, but some of them were different.
Okay.
But yeah, I think too you know, because you knew about the case because you watched a documentary.
The cases that I knew about it was strangulation.
And you just scrolled down all my notes and you were like, oh my God, you have so many notes.
Yeah. I want to see what the deal was. With
I
this.
went through that lady's book today, Catherine Casey's book today, and I just went down there like writing down all this stuff about like the victims and stuff like that, you know, because like I said, that's what I wanted to do.
All right.
So, yeah, so let's get a little bit into this. Like I said, I want to do all the victims and stuff first, and then at the end, we'll kind of get into some of the suspects, some of the people that were convicted for various things and shit like that.
Got to get this alcohol rolling.
Get the alcohol rolling.
Got to get this alcohol rolling because, man, I'm sleepy as shit.
Well, we woke up kind of early.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to sleep. Every Saturday morning, I'm just like, kind of like, man, I'm going to sleep in, and then I fucking never do.
Yeah.
As soon as the sun comes up, I go, boink.
Yep.
So by like 6:37, I'm
Plus,
already
you got a
awake.
cat running across her
Well,
chest.
yeah, that's another thing too, because she was out of her favorite treats. So now we're on the backup treats, and
Yeah,
she was
she's not
clearly
happy with
not very happy about it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Bridget.
What's it say?
It says, been waiting for this episode, more in-depth one.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that's what this is.
Yeah,
But yeah,
she knows that's not the right treats.
Yeah,
She's
so
like,
she's
"That's not
just,
the right
I mean,
treats."
she'll eat them, but then
Yeah.
she's like climbing all over us, looking at us like, what are you trying to pull? I know these are not my kitty
Yeah.
crack.
She likes those little temptations. They call it temptations.
What
and
the fuck did they put
it's
in
like
those,
crack, man. They know the difference between that treat and
Yeah,
all the other
you
ones.
try to give her other ones,
And they're
she's like,
that's not
I
quite
bought
the
all
right
different
one."
kinds of ones. I bought ones
Yeah.
from Aldi. I bought ones from Chewy. I bought like all different kinds. The only other like treats that she likes as much as Temptations are those Sheba meat sticks.
Yeah, she loves
Oh
those.
my god, she loves those.
Yeah, some of the treats we're given now actually came from listeners.
That's right.
I had a big stockpile of those.
Yeah.
And so she's getting those for right now. She eats them, but she tells me that's wrong. That's not, it's not the right
It's
ones.
not Temptations.
Yeah.
Those are the good ones.
Any kind of temptation. All different flavors.
Sandra asked, how's Beijing doing with her thing? What was it? It was her liver?
Yeah, that's better. She's better.
She seems to be
Yeah.
fine. She had a thing the other day where didn't she have to get her little butt gland
Yeah.
lanced or whatever, which happens
Yeah,
every now and then.
it popped on its own.
It was
Maybe
pretty,
had to give her some.
it was pretty
Had
gross.
to give her, what do you call it? Cat's ass exploded.
It did.
She had to go on
It
antibiotics.
happens.
Yeah.
Poor baby.
It's the weirdest
This
shit I've
isn't
ever
the
seen.
first time that's happened to her.
Yeah.
She's had it happen
That
a
ass
couple of times.
That ass explodes every 3 or 4 years, every 3 years or so.
I don't know what it is. It's why
an
apparently
explosion.
it's pretty common, like
Yeah.
with cats, I guess. But
Yeah.
I hope Pookie doesn't ever have anything like that. But poor Beijing has had it a few times. And
It's something genetic in
it's real disgusting.
Yeah.
Seth says we have Temptations here too, and I agree. It is cat crack. I don't know what the
Yeah.
fuck they put in there, man. It's like, God.
David June's saying he's never seen a cat that didn't like those Temptations.
I
especially-
haven't either.
Especially the chicken ones. Oh, they like the chicken ones, the barbecue ones, the seafood ones,
The catnip ones, the
just all
milk
of them.
flavored ones.
Milk-
I mean, they'll eat any
milk
of them.
Flavor, yeah.
I think
They
the
eat all.
chicken and the barbecue ones are their favorite,
Yeah.
but they'll eat any. I even bought them for Christmas. I bought ones that were like they were turkey and sweet potato on the
Yeah,
inside,
they
and
eat those too.
Oh, and they love those too.
There's something about the filling.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
got
know.
crack in it.
Yeah, Tammy says, yeah, my cat loves Temptations. They
Yep.
all do.
Yep.
What are you putting in their Temptations? Whoever
Yeah.
owns
And
Temptations,
if you try to give them something else, they're like, no, that's not it.
it's not as good.
That's not it. Yeah, they're fucking funny, man.
I
they're
don't
hilarious.
know what it is. I'm sure Temptations probably gets letters every single day like, what the fuck are you putting
Some
in
kind of
here?
special ingredient.
I know.
Yeah.
See, so now everybody's like that was like
Yeah.
worried that we hadn't got on any sidetracks. There you go. It's like a
Yeah.
Temptations cat treats.
Yep.
What the fuck you put in there because cats will just like eat the shit out of them.
It's crack.
It's gotta be.
Yeah.
She'll eat those rather than like you give her regular wet food and she'll kind of
like,
be like,
"Nah."
meh. She'll like eat a bite and
Yeah.
then turn her nose up at it. But you know, you shake the fucking Temptations box. She's right
Yeah.
there, man.
She eats them like normal cat.
She'll even
normal
like
cat food.
knock the box over and try to get in there, like try to open the fucking little thing
In
with
the
her
middle of the
paw.
night, she's trying to fucking open the damn box.
Yeah, she's like, you
Yeah.
can hear it.
Yeah. Fucking hilarious.
Funny.
I gotta get up and pour more.
She's like, my plate is empty.
Yeah.
Her little treat plate. All right. So let's kind of go through this. This is, victims. I'm going to go like sort of chronologically, but not exactly chronologically because sometimes people would disappear and the bodies wouldn't be found until a lot later. So I don't really want to like be confusing like that, but we'll get into it. Now, here's something that the Wikipedia page doesn't say. A few months actually, before the first victim disappeared, there was an incident in April of 1971. Now, there was a 16-year-old girl, unnamed in the press, obviously, because she was a minor. Now, she was sunbathing on East Beach in Galveston. I think it was a Tuesday, and she'd skipped school for that day. She would later report that she was approached by a white male who basically forced her into his car, drove her to the South Jetty, which was kind of secluded, and started beating her up and trying to rape her. Now, she got away, obviously, and she reported the shit to police, but the police were just kind of like, probably some drunk. You know
what
how
year was this?
1971.
Oh, okay.
Boys will be boys. I imagine them saying.
Well, I think they were just going, what do you want us to do about it? We don't have it. They do that kind of shit a lot.
They do. I know. It's kind of sad.
What do you want us to do about it? I mean, you know.
What do you expect?
We don't have him in custody. What do you look like? We didn't kill you, so you couldn't have been serious. That's what they think.
That's probably what they were thinking. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I know it's very easy to say in hindsight because look, it's, you know, I hate to say, but you know, if you're a girl or a woman, you have creepy dudes approaching you all the time. You can't cast yourself 20 years into the future and, you know, this guy is a serial killer and, oh, if I had known, you know, I would have fucking killed him right then and solved all his, you know, and then we wouldn't have had all these problems later on. So it's very easy to, like, in hindsight, because you know that all this shit happened later, that, hey, maybe this was one of the serial killers, but they didn't really do anything about it at the time. Like I said, it was the early 70s. Galveston was kind of, it's weird because Galveston seemed like for a while it was kind of going in the Atlantic City kind of route. Like it would, you know, it was kind of like, you know, all the rich people would come and there was like all these like cool nightclubs and casinos and shit. But then after a while, it was just kind of, everyone was just kind of like, and they went to Vegas and went elsewhere. So it's still like apparently a really beautiful area, but I think at the time it didn't have a real high population. Like a lot of people lived there seasonally. Like, you know, they would come down from the north and they had houses down there, but there weren't that many people that lived there year round. I think, you know, maybe I want to say 60,000. I could be totally wrong about that, in the early 1970s. And it was supposed to be like a real safe area, you know? So nobody really thought too much about it. They just thought it was some creepy drunk guy. Probably not though, because not too long later, only like 2 months later, June 17th, 1971, there's a little 13-year-old girl named Colette Wilson. Now, she had been at music practice, I think, like band practice. I think she played a clarinet, if I'm remembering it correctly. Now, she had been at, it was like a band practice or, you know, something, like, or a concert or something like that. Now, her band director dropped her off at the corner of County Road 99 and Highway 6. Now, he dropped her off there, and then her mom was supposed to come pick her up, right? So, the mom and 3 of Colette's siblings were in the car, and they were coming to pick her up. From the time that she was dropped off, from the time to where her mom showed up in the car, 6 minutes. But when the mom showed up in the car, Colette wasn't there. So there was a 6-minute gap where somebody took her.
Somebody pulled up in a car and forced her in.
Yeah,
like that.
and this is so horrible. Like, can you imagine if this happened? Because this is all I would think about. Yeah. So the mom, Claire, she pulls up to the spot where she's supposed to pick up Colette, right? And she said at the time, she's like, oh, well, I saw a man, you know, sitting in a car that was kind of off at the side of the road, but she didn't think anything about it at the time, because why would you? Yeah. Because she didn't know her daughter was missing. The first thing she thought, because sometimes she would tell Colette, because Colette had a friend that only lived like a block or 2 away from this corner. And she's like, hey, you know, if I'm late or if I don't show up after a few minutes, then just go to your friend's house and wait, and then I'll know to go pick you up there. So that's what she thought had happened. She thought, oh, well, maybe I'm later than I thought, and she went to the friend's house. So she went to the friend's house, but she wasn't there.
She's probably in that dude's car right in front of her.
I know, and it's like, can you imagine if that was your daughter and you did that, and then like you just saw the car and you didn't think anything about it, because why would you? Like
How old was she again?
13.
Yeah, pliant.
Because, you know, you wouldn't think about it. It was just like a dude in a car. You wouldn't think anything was weird, you know? And it's like, oh, my daughter's not there. Oh, she must have just gone to her friend's house because I took too long to get here.
Dude fucking ran up there and fucking threatened her with something.
Probably.
Scared her so bad she got in the car.
I imagine that's probably what happened. Yeah. But yeah, it's really scary. So, I mean, after the mom, she went to the friend's house. She called all her other friends. She's like, you know, where is she? Obviously, she's like, she went to the cops, you know, and told them what happened. And again, the cops didn't really take it all that seriously. Even though the little girl was only 13, they were kind of like, she's just a runaway. She'll come back. It happens all the time. Which...
It might.
Maybe. Like, I know a lot of teenagers do run away. But her family were just like, nah. It's just like, she wouldn't do that. She's not like that. You know, and we know her better than you do. So, obviously, something is wrong. But like I said, the cops didn't really take it seriously. But perhaps they should have. Like I said, I'm jumping ahead. Her body was actually not found until 5 months later. They found her near the attic's reservoir. near the body of one of the later victims, which I'll get into in a little bit. This is so sad to me too. Not only the whole thing about the mom seeing the dude in the car, maybe that dude in the car didn't have anything to do with the disappearance, but the fact of him sitting there, the fact that there was only a 6-minute window from when the band director dropped the little girl off to when her mom showed up, I kind of feel like that dude in the car was probably had something to do with it. But, you know, I don't know. So that's horrible. Like, you're fucking... If that was your kid, you would just, like, spend the rest of your life, like, why didn't I go say anything to that dude or whatever? So when they found her remains, which were skeletal at this point, her dad had to identify... Her dad was a dentist, and her dad had done, like, all her fillings and stuff.
Right.
And he recognized his work.
Yep.
Ugh. Isn't that horrible? It's like, it was really horrible to read about. I was just like, oh, I can't imagine, like, how you would go through that. But yeah, so that's what happened.
What year was this again?
1971.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So the next girl to disappear was 14-year-old Brenda Jones.
It's all the same victimology. Right, the right age. You notice that?
Yeah. Well, most of them were teenagers, like
Yeah.
young teenagers. There
Yeah.
were a few later that were a little bit older, like 19, but...
He probably didn't know they were a little bit older, though, depending on what they looked like. This is somebody who likes young girls.
Yeah.
I think it's the same guy at this stage, like you're talking about all the 70s ones.
Yeah.
It just sounds like the same guy.
Well, they're speculating that these 11 that happened in the 70s
Yeah.
were probably the same guy, just because the circumstances were very similar. The way they were killed was so the way their bodies were found was very similar.
He's probably not real physically intimidating, so he goes for younger ones because he can intimidate those. That way they comply. That's probably what it is.
Yeah. So, Brenda Jones, 14 years old, was last seen on July 1st, 1971. Now, she was actually, on that particular day, she was actually going to see her aunt in the hospital because her aunt had broken her leg. Her family was poor and they didn't have a car, so she usually took the bus. She took the bus to the hospital. She visited her aunt. Everything was fine. She took the bus back home. Several people on the bus and the driver said that she was on the bus and that she got off at her regular stop, which was only a block or two from her house. After she got off the bus, she disappeared. So the next day, I think it was only the next day, her body was found in Galveston Bay near Pelican Island. Now, when police first arrived on the scene, for whatever reason, because I've seen pictures of her, they thought that she was older than she was. They thought that she was 20. I don't know why. But then another officer arrived on the scene and he recognized her. Like, he knew who she was. He's like, no, that's Brenda. She's only 14. She was a student at Holy Rosary School. Actually, fun fact, the first African-American Catholic school in Texas. So she was found nude. Her wrists and ankles had been bound together with the laces from her Roman-style sandals. She had some of those sandals very popular in the 70s that laced all the way up to your knees.
Yeah.
She was wearing those. So she had been bound with the laces from those. Her underwear had been stuffed into her mouth post-mortem. No one's really sure why. Coroner stated that Brenda had been abducted and kept alive all night, probably been killed by manual strangulation sometime around sunrise on the same day that her body was found. He also concluded that her body had been dumped into the water from a boat or a pier, because there didn't appear to be a lot of, her body wasn't really beat up or anything. Now, interestingly, there really nobody saw any connection, because you have to think that Colette Wilson, the first murder victim.
She wasn't beat up?
No.
You said she wasn't beat up.
No.
But it was manual strangulation.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was just thinking he didn't throw her in the water. She didn't drown, did she?
No.
Okay.
No. She was strangled.
All right.
Even though Colette Wilson had disappeared, her body had not yet been found at this stage. Also, because Colette Wilson was white and Brenda Jones was black, I guess nobody really thought to connect the two crimes, even though the circumstances were similar.
That's the same dude.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah.
Like, now.
Right.
It's obviously. But they weren't really, like I said, they hadn't found Colette Wilson's body when Brenda Jones disappeared. So at this point, they just had a disappearance, which they were saying, oh, she's a runaway. And then they find a body. You know what I mean? So Brenda Jones was like the first body found, even though she wasn't the first one taken.
They thought it was a different dude because, serial killers usually hunt within their own ethnic group.
Yep.
But not always.
Not always.
Not always.
And not in this case.
They take targets of opportunity. He might have just seen her and goes, well, she's cute. I'll take her too. That's all.
I think that's exactly what was going on. I think he
Right,
just kind of took anyone that he could overpower, or that he could get into his car, that was just walking along.
Yep.
Because most of these girls were just kind of like walking along with their friend. And, as we'll get into later, as we'll get into in a minute, 3 sets of them were taken in pairs. Like, you know what I mean? When they were just hanging out with their friends, like in the daytime.
Damn.
So, yeah, scary.
Any survivors from those?
Nope.
I think maybe more than one guy, or maybe one guy with a gun.
Could be. It could be, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as I said, no one is thinking serial killer at this point. And like I said, this is the early 70s. Ted Bundy hadn't been caught yet, so...
It's a more naive time.
Serial killer was not really in the public lexicon at this stage, I guess. Like, people knew that this shit happened, but I don't think they were thinking about it the same way that we would think about it. All right. So the next 2 girls to disappear were Rhonda Johnson, who all her friends called Renee, and Sharon Shaw. Renee was 14 and Sharon was 13. Now, they were last seen August 4th, 1971. On this particular day, they had dropped by a kind of a popular teen hangout around the area of Galveston called the Wicks Ski School. You went there to water ski. Both of the girls were really, really into, surfing, beach, water skiing, as a lot of people that lived in Galveston were. It's a very beachy community. So they go to the ski school because they wanted to water ski, and the owner said, well, I can't take the boat out today, like the water's too choppy. So at that point, the 2 girls left and started walking along Seawall Boulevard toward the beach. They seemed kind of bummed out because they really wanted to water ski that day. But no one knows if they just like walked to the beach and got taken there, or if they were hitchhiking to go somewhere else. I think there was at least one witness that said they saw them hitchhiking, but I don't know how credible that is. But they were actually known to hitchhike, which a lot of people did in the early 70s. Cause like I said, it was a different time. People were a lot more, I don't want to say trusting or naive or something like that, but it was just something that a lot of people did, and they didn't really think much about it. So these 2 girls were no different in that regard. So they may have been hitchhiking, or they may have just been walking. So these 2 go missing. Just as in the prior cases, these 2 girls were also first considered runaways, in particular because these 2, as I said, very, very into surf culture, beach culture. They had talked numerous times, even though they were only 14 and 13 years old, that they wanted to run off to California. That's where the good surfing was. That's where all the surfers hung out. It's like they kind of wanted to go to California and, be in that whole scene. So even a lot of their friends at the time, the cops were just kind of like, oh, they must have taken off to California because they talked about it a lot. And even some of their friends, there was an interview, like a pretty extensive interview with one of their friends, from the time in that Deliver Us book. And she said, even we thought that. We thought that I guess they just took off for California like they were always talking about. You know what I mean? Yeah, that wouldn't happen. What happened to them? So they actually weren't found until much later. Renee was found in early January of 1972, and Sharon was found February 17th of 1972. They were both skeletons by this point. Both of their skeletons were found on the banks of an overflow ditch running off Taylor Bayou, east of I-45, about 30 miles north of Galveston.
This is the 12-year-old and the 13-year-old?
This is a 13-year-old and a 14-year-old. They were both taken at once.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is actually kind of near an affluent community called Shore Acres. So as I said, Sharon's remains were found about 6 weeks after Renee's, and they were about a half a mile apart. No evidence of trauma found on either set of remains. No gunshots, no anything like that.
How rotten were they?
They were skeletons. Skeletal.
Yeah, okay.
So cause of death on this one was a homicide, but cause of death was undetermined because
Probably strangulation.
or smothering or something like that. Usually, if they can't find any trauma on the body, it's usually smothering or sometimes strangulation. Although usually that hyoid bone will give away strangulation. But if they couldn't find that bone or whatever, then that might have been the case. But they're saying that it was a murder, but obviously because where the bodies were dumped, but they couldn't determine exactly how they had died.
They're going, how could they do this to kids? What, man, how could they do that to even adults? You know,
how could anyone do that to anybody? I said the only, you know what? It's like I kind of feel like I could do that to somebody that was a fucking horrible person, like, you know what I mean? Was a serial. I could take a serial killer and I could torture them and kill them, sure. But
especially if they came after somebody you knew.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, so I wouldn't have any problem. I wouldn't be fucking, you know, all thing about it.
Yeah,
because they fucking have it coming.
Yeah, and
innocent people, fuck that.
Ritualized combat between fucking men, fucking warfare, fucking this and that. Yeah, I'm all about that. That's the ultimate contact sport. Fucking, that's part of PTSD. Is it right? No. No. But it's like, goes back to that motherfucker right there. The weird thing about these dudes is that they're sexualizing murder, and I don't understand how the fuck you can kill a totally helpless person that's done nothing wrong to you. It's a lot more understanding when this is an enemy. This is somebody who means. That's what I mean.
I think most people could do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems really natural, like to defend.
And I'll hear things all the time in common parlance. Oh, this is hate. All this hatred and hate. Hate is a powerful emotion, and everybody. And when it comes to warfare, tribal warfare, conflict, going back to the fucking beginnings of humanity, hate kind of ran the show. You know. It kind of helped human progress. Technology was all an emergent property of people fighting because they hated each other. Hate is kind of a good survival mechanism. You hate people who are trying to hurt you. That's usually what it means.
Well, like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a very natural human reaction. That's the natural
human emotion. You just gotta realize. My advice to the audience is make sure you're not being manipulated by false information, because authorities will tell you to hate other groups, not because they're your enemy, because it's their enemy. You're always trying to get your underlings to do your dirty work for you, you know. And you know, me being ex-infantry and stuff, we kind of knew that the enemies that they'd send us after weren't really our enemies personally. That's why they were trying to make the warfare a little more civilized. Go see our Apocalypse Now video. You can't make war more civilized. It's always uncivilized. It's always tribal warfare. The whole thing is a fucking crazy experiment. But these guys here, this is sexual murder.
Well, they're just plucking random little girls off the street.
Yeah.
And just...
And they're getting men, too. It's just that we're not talking about those offenders. It's mostly heterosexual guys, perverts. They don't have any confidence around full-grown women, some of them. So they're going after these real young ones because it's easy picking. They feel powerful next to these girls. But you must have got to be a fucking scumbag.
Yeah.
You know? And then, like, it's bad enough just to rape some chick, but then you're going to kill her afterwards so you don't get caught? Or maybe you like that, too? That's part of the whole thing?
I think it is part of it.
You know? It would have to be.
I wanted to give a shout out to Jay Marcus. She said that she had a hard night. Her kitty just died.
Oh, it's too bad. Yeah, sorry to hear that.
I was crying right here. It said she used to sit next to her and like listen to the show on Saturdays.
Uh-oh. What happened to her?
Bummed me out. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. That made me sad, but I'm so sorry to hear that. It's like, I can't imagine. Tyler said, didn't they make a movie about this with Jeffrey D. Morgan? Yeah, they did. I mentioned it at the beginning. I think it came out in 2011. It's highly, highly fictionalized. I don't even think they used any of the names of the victims and stuff, which I can see why they did that. It's kind of similar, but it's just all those shit that happened in there. It's not really related to anything particularly that happened. But they made the movie like to kind of up the, the profile of the Texas killing field. So hoping that somebody would remember some shit so they could solve some of the ones that hadn't been solved.
Yeah, I can't relate to this wasting perfectly good young people. just to fulfill some kind of a fucking momentary sexual fucking urge. You know what I mean?
It's
like
funny
a
that
person's a piece of garbage or something.
that's
like that.
well, actually, like I was listening to the Time Suck thing about this, which actually is very, very good and like really detailed. And he makes jokes in there about too, like not about the victims, obviously, but that was exactly what he said. He said, you know, think of how much better the world would be if, you know, these dudes that just, you know, that kill people just for like a fleeting sexual urge, which is all it is. If they just fucking off themselves or just went and jerked off and then just fucking went back to their house and didn't fucking do anything about it anymore. It's like, yeah, that would be nice if that happened. But just leave everybody else alone. Shit. Especially little girls. God damn it. All right. So right around this time, here's another thing that's not on the Wikipedia page. They came up with a suspect, actually. So now this suspect was named Harry Lanham. He was a 24-year-old wrecker driver. Now he got arrested in April of 1972, along with a friend of his, a Vietnam veteran by the name of Anthony Napa Jr., for murdering 21-year-old Linda Faye Sutherland, whose body had been found along County Road 89 in November of 1971. What they pieced together had happened, according to witness accounts and whatever, it looked like Linda's car had broken down, like in a parking lot, and the two men had picked her up in their tow truck. Because, like I said, one of them was a tow truck driver. Now, unlike all of the previous Texas Killing Fields murders, Linda was actually found fully clothed. Though she had been tied up with her own pantyhose and she had been beaten. Also, it looked like there was some shotgun pellet stuff, like an injury to her shoulder.
Huh? She tried to run away and they shot at her.
Yeah. So they caught these two assholes. Now, once these two assholes were in jail, Harry Lanham confessed to all the Killing Fields murders that had occurred up to this point. However, the more they questioned him, the more the police didn't buy it. I'm guessing because a lot of the details he gave up didn't jibe with like the crime scenes and shit like that. For whatever reason, the cops did not charge him with any of them. And actually, one of the Colette Wilson's father, Tom, who got very into the investigation as it went on, he actually went and interviewed the dude too. And he came away from that thinking, I think the dude was lying. I don't think he did it. But I mean, there's no doubt that he did that 21-year-old woman that they picked up in their tow truck, him and his friend, and drove around with her and raped and killed her. But he's like, I don't think they did all the other ones, the little girls. And the cops apparently didn't think he did either. However, him and his friend were actually convicted of that one murder. Napa got 50 years. Harry Lanham got 25 years for killing Linda Sutherland. Happily, Harry Lanham got killed only a few months after he was sentenced when he tried to escape from jail with a homemade knife and the cops shot him. So,
it would have been better if he'd gotten killed a couple months before release. Trying to fucking
well, yeah. That probably would have been better. So he would have sat in jail all that time.
He didn't do much time. No.
Well, still, I mean, dudes like that, it's just that it's better that they're dead. It's better for everyone involved. You know what I mean? Yes, it's nice if they suffer, and it would be good if they did. But if they don't, if they just die, I'll take that too, as long as they're not running around. So the next victim was Gloria Gonzalez. Now, she was a little bit older. She was 19. She was a bookkeeper at a Houston Kroger grocery store. She was last seen October 28th, 1971. I guess she was walking home from work, back to her apartment. She had an apartment on Jacqueline Street in Houston. Her roommate actually reported her missing when she didn't come home. Later on, it was a little less than a month later, her headless and decomposing remains were found near Addicks Reservoir, pretty much the same area where Colette Wilson's body had been found. Now, interestingly, so the head was separate from the body, but the coroner determined that probably animals had done that. The weird thing about it, though, was that the skull was pretty much completely defleshed, decomposed, whereas the body still had some flesh on it, which they thought was very weird. I'm not really sure why. I don't know if the conditions were slightly different from where the body and the skull were found or what have you. Cause of death seemed to be ligature strangulation, because they did find there was like a 4-inch piece of wood, and it was kind of cinched around her neck with a 2-foot cotton cord. So, they used that to strangle her. Now, this is actually how Colette Wilson ended up being found. As I said, she was the first one taken, but wasn't found until 5 months later. So when they found Gloria Gonzalez's skeleton, they actually found some other teeth, at the same site. And then they got confused because he was trying to, the coroner was trying to put the teeth into this mandible, and they didn't fit. So he was kind of like, well, whose teeth are these then? At which point they're like, there must be another individual out here. So they went and looked again, and that's when they found Colette Wilson's body. So, like I said, she had disappeared 5 months prior. But that's how they ended up finding her. Now, the next one, this is interesting because comes up on the Wikipedia page, but this victim was not mentioned in the book, so I don't know. I don't think this is one of the canonical 11, but it is for sure weird, and it happened in the same area, and it might be connected to the other ones. So this is a 12-year-old girl named Allison Craven. She was last seen November 9th, 1971. Now, she had been home by herself, and her mom went out to run some errands. She was gone for about an hour. And then she came home, and her daughter was gone. Now, their apartment was near I-45. Now, police later ended up finding Allison's partial remains in a field nearby. They found 2 of her hands, and some teeth and the bones from one arm. They found the rest of her skeleton on February 25th, 1972 in Pearland, so whatever it is, which is also near I-45, about 5 to 10 miles away from her apartment where they assume that she was taken from. I don't know if she left the apartment while her mom was gone or if somebody came in the apartment and took her. I don't know. So that's, like I said, that's not usually one of the canonical 11, but it is listed as one of the related murders.
No car missing or anything, huh?
Mm-mm.
She never. These all
well, she was only 12.
Okay.
She was only 12.
Yeah, that's right. These all sound like vehicle abductions. Somebody pulls up on them with a car, maybe pulls a pistol on them, tells them to get in. That's what it sounds like.
I think that's probably what's happening.
Just funny is that's fucking some bold shit. You don't hear about that happening much anymore. Maybe it's because there's so many damn cameras at the intersections.
Yeah.
To where they don't feel comfortable pulling a gun on somebody from in public from a car and telling them to get in. Maybe because they wouldn't. They just run.
Well, yeah, I feel like most
mentality is
people would be like, yeah, no, not getting in there, bud.
A little kid might, though. A 12
yeah,
or 13-year-old
a little girl
might get in. Yeah.
Because they'd be scared or
They think a gun is a magical wand. You wave it at somebody and pull the trigger and they're instantly killed. Man, it's fucking hard to shoot a fucking running person, even at close range, especially with a fucking pistol.
Just run zigzag.
Yeah, run zigzag, run fast as you can. If that dude's got a revolver, man, he's probably going to burn up all 6 rounds.
Do not let anyone take you to another location.
Never
let anyone take you to another location.
Ever let anyone remove you from a location.
You fight like hell.
It's a fate worse than death. Make them shoot you. Do not let anybody take you anywhere. Because you're going to... Just get in the car, honey. It'll be all right. I'm going to put these handcuffs on you. It'll be all right. And I'm going to let you go when I'm done with you. He's not going to let you go.
No, fuck that.
He's going to fucking torture you.
Yeah.
And then kill you.
Yep. So, I mean, you
might as well just get shot.
Honestly, just run.
Just run.
I mean...
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, if you run zigzag, he might shoot you, but he might not kill you.
Yeah.
And it's better than what he's planning on doing.
The worst thing that could happen while you're zigzagging is he fucking connects with you and you get shot and you die on the spot. Or maybe later, you die. That's a lot better than being fucking tortured for a month or 2 days or fucking 6 hours or whatever.
You guys...
Because you still die. Death is still death.
You guys have read about some of these cases. You don't want some of this shit happening.
Might as well fucking make him fucking kill you.
Yeah.
Early on. Yeah.
Scary. All right. So the next one, this was another pair of best friends. Debbie Ackerman, who was 15, and Maria Johnson, also 15. These 2 girls were last seen November 15th, 1971. They were best friends. Also very active in Galveston's beach and surf culture. Like I said, like a lot of people in Galveston were, a very beachy community. Debbie was she was born in Galveston. Her parents were German immigrants. Maria had only been there about a year. On the weekend of their disappearance, Debbie had been wanting to stay over at Maria's house, which she did quite often. Like I said, they were best friends. They were always staying at each other's houses. It was a holiday weekend. I believe it was, I don't know if it was some kind of holiday. Maybe it was Thanksgiving. I don't know. It wasn't late enough to be Thanksgiving. I don't know. But they said it was like a 3-day weekend. So she stayed at her, like, she initially asked her mom, hey, can I stay over at Maria's house all weekend? And her mom was like, no, you need to stay here and help me clean the house. And the kid was like, fuck that. And then she went and asked her dad. And her dad said, sure, you can go. In which case, probably the parents argued, but whatever. So she goes to Maria's house. They spend the weekend kind of hanging out at Maria's house. They go to the mall, like, to get one of their boyfriends a present or something like that. Monday, they were seen at a Baskin-Robbins ice cream shop. There were 2 girls that were working there. And the 2 girls that were working there said that they saw Debbie and Maria accepting a ride from a dude in a white van with a peace sticker on the back window.
Yeah.
And that was the last time
Well,
that
the
they
peace
were
symbol,
seen.
the peace symbol was counteracting the fact that he was in a white van.
Yeah, because white van is just like molester, serial killer.
Well,
I mean, white van, that's like the
that,
vehicle of choice.
Maybe that wasn't a meme back then.
I guess it wasn't.
No.
I mean, seriously, nobody can even. I wonder sometimes too, like as time has gone on, like how much the sales of white vans have been depleted because everybody associates like a white van with fucking serial killers.
No, it hasn't been affected at all. White vans, that's all your fucking utility and work vans are white. Because, state agencies and companies, it's the cheapest color, it's the toughest color. The most bulk purchases, they buy them for fleet vehicles and then they're resold. It's easier on the air conditioning and the inside and everything. No, vans tend to be white,
Yeah.
The reason why serial killers have them, because there's a lot of used ones out there.
Yeah.
Like Crown Victorias.
Well,
excellent cars, man. They're fucking everywhere, though.
And like you said, because so many white vans are used as work trucks,
yeah,
maybe a lot of times they can be like incognito because they're like, hey, I'm just like reading your meter. That's all.
Blends right in.
I'm from the electric company.
Well, you know what? I bet you had a white truck and you had some ladders on the top of it, and maybe something that looks like it's like camouflage.
Yeah.
People don't even notice those things.
Yeah, because they just think,
Put some
must be the
ladders on
cable
top
guy.
of it.
Or
Yeah,
must
it's
be
a cable
something
guy.
like that. Yeah.
You don't even notice it.
Yep.
You see many of those every time you go out. You don't even notice them.
Well, yeah, shit. We see them around here all the time because of like Long Cruise,
Servicing
Amazon
people.
Prime.
Yeah.
Like I think the Amazon Prime ones are great though.
It says Amazon Prime on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So they were seen getting in this white van.
It's just like a clipboard. If you got a clipboard in your hand, maybe a cup of coffee, and maybe a hard hat and a tie, you can walk around all day long. Nobody asks you a fucking question.
And you could be BTK for all
you
I
could
know.
be DKing the fuck out of this place. But you got a cup of coffee and a clipboard and a hard hat and a tie.
Yeah.
Short sleeve fucking shirt.
Looking important.
That's
I'm
right.
doing some fucking surveying around here.
If your little mustache, a white dude with a mustache. Luigi in your ass around. Like Luigi.
Luigi, eh?
Yeah, and you would never...
Or Marioing.
Nobody will... You're Marioing.
I think Luigiing is easier to say.
Luigiing is better. Fucking nobody will notice you.
Yeah, Serpent Surfer says that, and they can put a mattress in the back. Serial killer shagging wagon.
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly why. You can stack victims back there like cordwood.
Yep.
Horrifying. So yeah, 2 days later, the bodies were found with shoelaces, bound up with shoelaces, nude from the waist down in Turner's Bayou. Maria was found first. Debbie was found several hours later on the same day. It appeared that both girls had died from gunshot wounds to the head. So they had been shot, not strangled.
That's a different
I don't know though, because they were bound in the same way. Yeah. So I kind of feel like this was probably the same dude, but he was just like changing shit up.
Maybe he had a fetish thing. He wanted to know what it was like to shoot him. Louis Hernandez says Crown Vic was my first car. Crown Vics are excellent cars. That and that damn Mercury Grand Marquis, that's the fucking upscale version. That's the pimpin' version of the Crown Vic. But like all your cop cars and all your what do you call them? All your fucking cab, your taxi cabs, they're all Crown Vics. All your old men cars are Crown Vics. They're fucking everywhere. That fucking Ford modular engine in there and all that shit. I can work on those things, man. They're easy to work on. Parts like water. The thing is the connotation though is that there are just so many of them that, Put divorce dual exhaust on there, man. Turn it into a Marauder, maybe. Go 5.4 liter. Yeah, you can do all kinds of cool shit with that. Anyway, I'm going down. I'm getting sidetracked.
Well, I mean, the thing about it, though, it's if all you want is a car that's going to be relatively cheap to fix and is going to be pretty reliable, and you don't really care what it looks like.
Even cheaper and even more reliable. They can look good if you fucking got one painted and it's got a nice interior. Even more reliable than a Ford Taurus, and cheaper than a Ford Taurus. But they're V8s, you know. They don't get great gas mileage, but you can live with them. They never break. You know, the fucking heavy-duty alternators that are cheap, you can get rebuilt ones. Fucking AutoZone's got everything for the Crown Vic. And like they're just flooded, here in the U.S., flooded with spare parts. They're trying to get rid of those spare parts. They're fucking everywhere. Those cars are fucking, and they're just built like fucking tanks. Tanks, yeah. Proven. Especially the later generations. All our cop cars are still Crown Vics.
Bees Nest says my first car was a VW Dasher.
Yeah.
Mine was a Toyota Tercel.
Yeah.
That was manual transmission. Holy shit, man.
Hernandez says that, yep, Mexicans and Crown Vics go hand in hand. You're fucking right. Well, it's a good deal, man. Excellent car, cheap prices. You can keep them running forever.
Well, yeah, like I said, if you don't want to pour your whole entire fucking life savings into the car and you want to make sure it gets you from place to place without breaking down every 5 minutes, then
and fucking you can get the Mercury you can get Mercury what do you call it? What the fuck? I just named it. The Mercury version of it. The interiors, they're fucking plush, man. Fucking same thing with fucking Lincoln Town Car. It's that same basic part.
Fancy.
You can make a fucking just a pimp ride out of one of those if you just fucking plush interiors and shit. You can, if you know what you're doing, you can really deck a Crown Vic out. You can get a used one for nothing, like $500 for another. Kind of like what I did to your Taurus.
Yeah.
But a Crown Vic. I was looking for a Crown Vic. Remember?
Yeah.
We couldn't find one.
We just got the Taurus because it was only $1,400. And it was, I mean, it needed a little bit of work, but not much.
Tires, and it needed.
I think we put another $500 into it, and it's still fucking running.
Distributor,
and we really haven't. And we really haven't done too much. It's got like a little problems, but nothing that really keeps it from running.
Replace the air conditioning compressor, air compressor.
Yeah. It's it's been a pretty reliable car. Of course, I can't believe I just said that out loud because now I probably jinxed it.
Yeah.
Now next time we drive it, it's just gonna.
We rarely drive it now.
I know, that's what I mean. I don't drive it. I used to drive it all the time.
Louis knows the Marauder. Hell yeah. Yeah, the Marauder was a good addition.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. Now we're in 1973. Next victim was a 16-year-old girl named Kimberly Pitchford. She was last seen January 3rd, 1973. She was at Dobie High School. She had actually done her classes there, and then I think she had, like, after school, what do they call that? Not suspension, but what is that when you have to get when you're in trouble and you go after fucking...
Yeah, it's called detention.
You know, like, detention, there you go. So I was like, like the Breakfast Club. What's that word?
My boy Granther says that he used to drive and the guy's talking about the police interceptors. Granther was a cop, I believe. But, police interceptors, they were good. And like I said, you could scale up to the plush interiors, too. The aftermarket was fucking cheap. You could get really good fucking interiors for it. $300, you could put a whole new interior in one. Okay, go ahead. We're talking cars now. Next, we're going to be talking guns. We got to get back to true crime, guys.
Yeah, he's seen how many notes I have, so it's just kind of like...
You got to get back,
So she had gone to classes, then she had detention, and then she had a driver's ed test. She had a test for driver's ed later on that evening at the same high school. So she leaves high school, the high school at about 6 p.m. And disappears. Yeah. Her body was found 2 days later in a ditch 22 miles away from her high school. She was not found nude. She was still clad in the dress she'd last been seen in. I think it was like red and blue. She had also died by ligature strangulation. The next ones to disappear, another pair. Brooks Bracewell, who was 12, and Georgia Gear, who was 14. Last seen September 6th, 1974. Now, they were seen at a convenience store called U-Totem off of, I don't know why it's called that. That doesn't sound like a convenience store to me. That sounds like something else. Off of 517 and I-45. They were reported missing by their parents when they didn't show up at McAdams Junior High School for classes. Now, there was one witness, I don't know if this is credible or not. One witness reported, because apparently they had skipped school that day. These are little kids, they're 12 and 14. One witness said that they had seen them playing football with a group of unidentified men near Alvin, Texas. Don't know if that's true or not. Might have been the other people. Might have been other girls. Another witness said they'd seen the girls hitchhiking that day. Which maybe, because like I said, a lot of girls that age did that back then. It wasn't that unusual. So they disappeared. Nobody knew where they were for a couple of years. Their skulls were actually found in 1976. It appeared as though they had died from blunt force trauma, like they had been beaten to death in the head. The remainder of their skeletons were not found until 1981. Next victim was a 12-year-old named Suzanne Bowers, last seen May 21st, 1977. She had actually been visiting her grandparents' house, which was between the 4000 block of Avenue S and the 3100 block of Avenue P. This was 10:45 in the morning. So, like I said, none of these were at night. These were all just little girls walking to the store, walking to their friend's house, which everybody did back then. You know what I mean? So, fucking crazy. So she was at her grandparents' house, and she was going to go meet some friends down at Stewart Beach. So she was going to walk home, which I think was only a mile, to get her bathing suit and get her bike so she could ride to the bike. Because I think that the beach was 3 miles away. So she was going a mile to her house, get her bike, and then riding 3 miles. Now, interestingly, this is super sad too. Suzanne had asked her grandfather to give her a ride the mile to her house. And he said, no, you need the exercise. Guess what? During that mile, she disappeared. She had been that way like a whole bunch of times. And this is so fucking sad. This was a detail that Catherine Casey brought up in the book. She said that when the grandfather died many years later, the last word he said was her name. Because he never forgave himself for not giving her a ride that day because she disappeared. I mean, he couldn't have known, like I said. But that would just fucking destroy you, I would think. Like shit like that. So, 2 years later, her skeletal remains were found in Alta Loma, Texas. Her skull also showed evidence of blunt force trauma. Kind of infamously, I guess, good old Henry Lee Lucas later claimed to have murdered Suzanne Bowers.
Yeah, motherfucker.
But we all know how credible anything shit comes out of his mouth is.
That dude was LARPing as a serial killer. He wished he was a serial killer.
He killed like 3 people, okay?
Yeah, those all people he knew in his family, though.
Yeah. Now, later he did say that he killed her, but then later he said, yeah, I just made that up just to get
some ice
perks.
cream.
He could get some ice cream. Yeah. He wanted to go get a milkshake or some shit, or some McDonald's or something. And so he's like, yeah, I killed that one too. Why not? Add it onto the list. So, yeah.
Xanada's in there. What's up, bro? Xanada's it's taken him 3 days to even try to get through the first 1/3 of fucking of Apocalypse Now.
It's a time commitment.
young dudes, they just don't have the damn attention span. You know what I mean? For movies, you know, it's an art form they're yet to appreciate.
Well, as I said, it's when you kind of grow up, it's not entirely their fault because you have to think that younger people, grow up. Yeah. Where you have everything is, really fast and everything. Yeah. You have like all these windows open and it's like you're doing this and doing that and everything's like really quick edited and everything.
You can't enjoy anything. And then I tried to get him on other Milius flicks. Tried to put him on Conan the Barbarian, the first one. He couldn't get through it. I told him about fucking the other one, fucking Jeremiah Johnson, another badass epic fucking Milius flick. And he's like, I don't want to see that. But he wanted to see Apocalypse Now. He can't get through it. I know he can't get through it. Can't get through it. I'm fucking with you, Xanad. I want,
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
All right, so
it's hard. That's what he said. Yeah. It's hard. Yeah.
So as I mentioned earlier, these particular 11 murders, not counting Allison Craven because they're not sure if that one's connected or not. A lot of investigators suspect these particular 11 murders that took place in the 1970s were probably committed by the same dude. And a lot of people think that this particular dude was Edward Harold Bell. Now, we'll talk about him a little bit later. But he's kind of like prime suspect, at least for the 70s ones. Because like I said, there were some in the 80s and some in the 90s, and these were not all the same guy. This is all a bunch of different serial killers. Now, this is an interesting case. This is actually not on the Wikipedia page, and it wasn't in the book, but I saw it on a Texas Killing Fields, site that kind of had a bunch of shit about all the victims and everything. And this, I've never seen this tied to this before. But there was a case that happened in May of 1978. Now, the victim here, at least one of them, was a 28-year-old woman named Karen Pretty. Now, this is weird. Okay, so what ended up happening was her husband came home. They live in North Houston. He came home on May 10th, 1978. He finds breakfast, like half-eaten on the table. Water's dripping in the front bathroom. He goes in the bathroom, finds the bodies of his two sons, 7-year-old Scott and 5-year-old Mark, in the bathtub. They had been drowned. His wife was in the master bedroom, and she had been strangled with a phone cord. Now, her hands and feet were also bound with another cord, and she was also submerged underwater in another bathtub. She was still wearing a bathrobe, had not been sexually assaulted. Kids were in their pajamas. They had not been sexually assaulted either. Scott had been strangled and then drowned in the tub. Mark was also strangled and drowned, but he had also been beaten. House had not been robbed. Only one drawer was open. Their car, which was a 1978 Mercury Marquis, was found in an unassigned parking spot in an apartment at 198 Goodson Drive.
He drove away in it.
So nobody knows if this one's connected or not. Yeah. I just thought that was an interesting case because I'd never heard about that one. Didn't exactly sound like the same MO, but
it's a home invasion.
But they didn't take anything, which I think is really, and they didn't rape the woman, which, like I said, is very, very strange. And drowning just seems like a very weird.
Well, he was probably going to. It was one guy, I think.
Yeah.
He went in there while they were eating breakfast. He took over.
Mm-hmm.
He told the woman to tell the kids to get in the bathroom and hide, and they did. He was going to go rape the woman. Then the kids started to make too much noise, and he lost control, so he strangled and drowned the woman and went over there and finished off the kids. That's what happened there.
Because I feel like that happened in
Kids
a couple of
didn't know.
BTK cases,
Yeah.
and didn't that happen in like some original Night Stalker cases or something similar?
The kids were too young to just bolt and run. They did what they were told. They waited in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Then he got in there and tried to drown one of them. The other one resisted. He had to beat that one up, and he probably ended up kind of drowning both of them at the same time, something like that. Maybe he knocked one of them out, then drowned that one. Went back, grabbed the one that was knocked out, and then drowned him.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, it was. Still, this is something that a weak man does. You know what I mean?
Well,
that's why he picks on women and children, is because he's a nothing, you know, and he could never overpower, you know, a grown man. You're talking about a weak little men doing this. They have fucking self-image problems. Normally, they're powerless. That's why they do this.
Yeah. Yeah, they wouldn't need to do it otherwise.
No.
Not saying they need to do it, because they don't. It's a fucking choice, but, you know.
It's kind of a power trip to them, though, because it's the only time they can ever get anything done.
Yeah.
You know, fucking, you find the dude, he's probably like 5'2", doesn't weigh anything, and fucking balding or something, you know. There's always some kind of physical inadequacy with these guys.
Well, yeah, that's one of the main things.
Nobody
with
takes
these
them
types
serious.
of serial killers, yeah.
Nobody takes them seriously, so they have to prove to themselves that they're dangerous men. They're not dangerous. They're fucking pussies.
Yeah, that's what Michael Schaefer just said. It's called being a pussy.
Yeah, they're fucking pussies. Yeah.
All right.
You want to be a bad motherfucker? Go join Delta Force. You go tell me how.
Yeah, let's see how tough you are then.
Yeah, fucking yeah.
It's real good snatching little 12-year-old girls off the street.
Yeah. That bitch fucking joined the fucking service, and it's just one huge tough man competition, and see how you stack up against fucking dudes. You can see, you know, I mean, you know, you're gonna be at the bottom. You're a fucking pussy.
Yep.
If you just think this way, you're a fucking pussy.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's another one that may be related, may not be related. So, Michelle Garvey was 15 years old. Interestingly, she was last seen in June 1982, so we're into the 80s now. Now, she actually was from Connecticut. She supposedly ran away from home. She lived in New London, Connecticut. They think maybe she climbed out of her bedroom window and ran away from home and was maybe trying to hitchhike. However, she turned up dead in Texas on July 1st, 1982. She actually wasn't identified until 2014. I think like on the Reddit, or the Web Sleuths forum, they actually kind of tracked down and they identified her. They were able to help identify her because she had been a Jane Doe prior to that time. Next one was Sandra Ramber. She was 14. Last seen October 26, 1983. She was actually, looked like she was maybe taken from her house or was lured out of her house. She lived in Santa Fe, Texas. When her family got home, they found the front door standing open. Biscuits were baking in the oven. Her purse and coat were still in the house. She has never been found.
Damn.
But they're assuming that she has probably been murdered, but they don't know where she is.
Gone.
They don't know where she is. Next victim, Heidi Fi, who was either 23 or 25. I've seen it listed both ages, so I'm not really sure. She was last seen October 10th, 1983. She was a cocktail waitress and a bartender. She, what ended up happening, I guess, was that she had been at work and then she was going to hitchhike to Houston to visit her boyfriend. She was walking from her parents' house. I guess at the time she disappeared, I guess she was walking to her parents' house. She was going to use a phone at a nearby convenience store, which was actually the same payphone that a subsequent victim would also be taken from. So, same payphone. The payphone of doom. That's what that was. Her body was found, this is fucking horrifying, when a dog carried her skull to a nearby house. Dog had been digging around in the woods, found a skull, thought he'd bring it and show the family.
He knew.
Little toddler was like standing on the porch going, what the fuck is that? And the family's like, what the fuck is that in Fido's mouth there?
Dog absolutely knew.
It was a skull. Yeah.
That knew. This is a human. Look,
it's like, person. Do something about this.
Yeah.
Call the police.
This smells like a person.
Yeah. Well, yeah, dogs aren't dumb.
They're not dumb.
So that's probably... Because you know what? I've written about a lot of, a handful of cases where dogs did actually bring human bones to a nearby house. They know like an arm or something.
They know what a dead person smells like.
Yeah.
They know it's not an animal. They're like, look, this belongs to you.
Yeah.
This is your people.
Yeah. You fix this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she vanished October 10th, 1983. Her body was not found until April of 1984. She looked like she had been beaten to death. The coroner thought with a club or a bat or something like that. She had a lot of like broken ribs, blunt force trauma to the head, things of that nature. Next victim was Laura Miller, 16 years old. Probably one of the highest profile cases because her dad would go on to form EquiSearch, which was instrumental in like they search for missing persons, have turned up probably like I think it's like 140, 150, 60, 70 bodies. Since then have turned up some missing people. They actually came down, they were involved in the Kaylee Anthony case when they still thought that Kaylee Anthony was missing. They came down and helped with that. So this is probably why this is one of the higher profile ones. So Laura Miller was 16. It was September 10th, 1984. She was at the same convenience store that Heidi Fi had been seen at, talking on the same payphone that Heidi Fi had been talking on. She had also called her boyfriend, whose name was Vernon. The convenience store was only a mile from her house. Her family had just moved to a new house in League City 10 days prior to her disappearance, which maybe was why she had to walk to the convenience store to use the phone. I don't know why. Her family actually, again, the cops were kind of like, oh, maybe she's a runaway. Although they were taking shit a little bit more seriously at this point. A little bit.
Wait, hold on. How much time had separated between this victim and the other one that was on that phone? What are we talking about?
Heidi had disappeared October 1983. Yeah. So it was almost a year.
Yeah, same dude.
Yeah, it is the same. Dude. Well, yeah, it's the same payphone.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was a regular place for him. He passed by.
Yeah, it was. I think that on that Dark Minds episode, that Raven guy
He's
that
hanging
he
out in
talks
that
to,
spot.
he said, yeah, it's like fishing, where it's
Yeah.
like you go back to the same spot
driving
again and again. Yeah.
He's doing a routine. He's doing a route, cruising around.
Yeah, like
checking his regular spots.
Yeah.
I kind of appeared in that spot. Two of them appeared in that spot.
I kind of feel like, as much as they kind of go on about, you know, the transient population because of all the, you know, the heavy industry and stuff, I kind of feel like these might be dudes that kind of live around there or kind of know the area. Because the ones that they caught were dudes that lived around there or had been there for a while. You know what I mean?
This is in the early 80s?
Yeah, we're into the 80s now.
80s, yeah. Drinking and driving wasn't real heavily enforced in the early 80s in the South. So he's cruising. What day did this fall on? A Saturday or a Friday?
I don't know.
I bet you it was sometime during the weekend.
Yeah.
He's cruising around.
She was it was September 10th, 1984, so I don't know what day of the week that was. I don't know what day.
He's cruising around drinking, listening to the radio, and he's checking these spots.
Yeah.
Kind of like teenage boys would do the same thing in Mississippi, cruising around, checking the normal spots, and everybody is going to these spots. And it's just where teenagers are checking each other out and fucking listening to music and fucking swapping the girls are swapping from one car to the next, and then you just drive around. There's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Back in those days. You know
True.
what I mean? So, driving around in cars and switching cars, and everybody goes to high school or middle school together, whatever, because, you know, actually in the South you could drive at 13 with a permit. So, especially back in those days. So that was cruising culture.
Yeah.
Serial killers of that era did the same thing. Cruising. That's what he's doing.
Justin says, finally I get on for live. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I think this is maybe the first time I've seen you on a live stream, so hi. Hi, Justin. Okay, so she disappears from the same fucking payphone a little less than a year after Heidi disappeared from the same payphone. As I said, the cops, you know, she was 16, and they're like, well, maybe she just ran away. Her family knew she didn't run away because she had a really bad seizure disorder, and she had medication for it that she had to take, and she hadn't taken it with her. She hadn't taken any of her shit with her. So they ended up finding her body a little less than 2 years later, February 3rd, 1986. Her body was found only about 60 feet away from where the body of Heidi Fye had been found, who, again, had been taken from the same cell phones. They were found like 60 feet apart. But a couple years.
Michael says, I got my DWI in 1990. They were enforcing it back then. Yeah, the fucking anti-drunk driving thing was actually a late 80s thing in the South. In Mississippi, I can remember during the I can remember up until almost kind of like the mid 80s, 86, 87. People would fucking drive around with open containers, drinking like it was nothing. It wasn't. They knew about drunk driving, just there wasn't a lot of people on the road in the South, and it was just in the culture to drink and drive at the same time, especially Louisiana. Louisiana was big at it, but that's just the way it was back then.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they didn't really think. They're like, well, I can drive. It's okay.
That's why DWI laws fucking came into play. Into the late 80s,
well, yeah,
early 90s.
Because
everybody was fucking drinking
and
driving.
It was getting ridiculous.
It's getting ridiculous, yeah.
Everybody's running
you
over
see
everybody.
fucking cars fucking just veering, almost running off the road, and then coming back into the lane and shit.
I got it. I'm not driving.
I got it. Just drive around and drink.
It's bad enough we drink and stream. At least we're not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
Except our own reputations.
Yeah. It was an older generation, for the most part. It wasn't our generation, you know what I mean? But they would literally drink and drive.
I know.
You'd be drinking and in the front seat.
Putting the beer
like you're in a bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking.
Yeah, it's a mobile bar.
Yeah, they'd be pouring fucking Jack Daniels in their fucking Cokes and fucking straws and shit, and blaring music and just have fun. You know, and they just. I remember it. Dangerous as shit, but man, this is the fucking 80s, man. In the South,
no one gave a shit about others.
Fuck.
No one gave a shit about others.
No.
Let's be honest about it.
No.
No one really thought about others. They just thought about what they wanted to do.
And how cool it was.
And how cool they were.
Yeah, that's
pretty much it.
And, well, it kind of fit the time. It was a high-risk time. Lots of fucking rock music and shit. You know, they're listening to Journey and shit.
Justin said, I remember my dad drinking and driving. Work to home was a 2-beer trip.
Yeah. And it was... this was happening in the more rural areas anyway. It was, small towns and country, and so it didn't impact society at large because society in the mainstream society didn't live out there anyway. It was like something out in the outback, Australia or something.
Sandra said,
Swamps.
You can drink here openly in a car too. She's in Germany, in case you guys didn't know. Just don't get drunk. Must stay under, I don't remember,
certain
0.2 per milliliter, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So you can't have. I thought you could in the UK too, but it might. I mean, because people were doing it when I was there in the '90s, and no one really seemed to give much of a shit about it.
Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, certain parts of Texas, maybe a little bit Tennessee to Kentucky. Oh no! Back in the '80s, they were fucking loaded driving.
Yeah.
Loaded, listening to Journey and listening to fucking early Iron Maiden and fucking blasting shit out the fucking windows and listening to Falco and fucking man. Amadeus, rock me Amadeus. Yeah, fucking right.
Oh my god.
Car would be packed with girls and shit. Yeah.
Girls hanging off the ceiling, hanging off the roof.
Fucking tight ass fucking jeans, fucking tube tops, and fucking taking their
pulling
tops
off. I was gonna say
titties
flashing everybody in the next car.
Everybody knew everybody. Bad hair, everything. Mullets.
Yeah.
Fucking mullets. Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
My drink's empty.
Is it? Let me make you another one.
You're gonna make me another one.
Okay.
All right. Okay, where was I? Okay, so Laura Miller. So I'll get a little bit more into like Tim Miller's thing like later on because there was a thing with him with one of the suspects, and that's kind of like a whole story unto itself. So at this stage, because there had been so many bodies found in this area at the time, this was right around 1986, when that movie about Cambodia came out that was just called The Killing Fields. And that's kind of when the media picked up on the name and started calling this place the Texas Killing Fields. Didn't really have a name prior to that. As I said, the stretch of I-45, some people call it the Highway to Hell prior to that. Not necessarily because of the bodies, but because of all the accidents. But from about 1986 onward, it started being referred to as the Texas Killing Field. So that's where the name came from, because that's, I believe that's the year that movie came out. Now, the next one, this happened in December. Thank you. She went missing in December 1985. Now, this woman was actually a Jane Doe for a very, very long time. They found her body February 2nd, 1986, in a field in the 3000 block of Calder Road, very near to where Laura Miller's body had been found. At the time, 1986, when the body was found, they estimated the woman was 22 to 30 years old, about 5'5" to 5'8", and that she had died either 6 weeks or, to 6 months prior to being found. She had been shot in the back with a small caliber firearm. She was not identified until April of 2009. They used family tree DNA, so genetic genealogy, same way they caught the original Night Stalker. And they discovered that she was a 30-year-old woman named Audrey Cook. So it took them from 1986, when they found the body, to 2009 to identify her. So she is not a Jane Doe anymore. Her name is Audrey Cook. She was 30 years old. Last seen December 1985. Now, the next one was a 19-year-old young woman named Shelley Sykes. Now, she was last seen May 24th, 1986. She had a job as a waitress at, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this, Guido's. It's a very famous seafood restaurant in Galveston. It's kind of a landmark. So she really liked working there. She had been working there for a little while. She left after her shift at about 11:35 p.m. I believe it was Memorial Day weekend, so it was kind of crazy around. There's a lot of tourists and shit like that, going to the beach and whatnot. She was actually, her kind of dream was she wanted to open her own dance studio. She was trying to save up money to do that because she'd been doing ballet and jazz and all that kind of stuff. Now, the night she disappeared, she had actually been talking to her boyfriend, Mark, and she was going to go to his house after she got off work, which she did quite often. So she said she was going to do that. She's like, oh, I'm kind of tired, but yeah, I'll drive out there. So, unfortunately, she never got there. Her car was found the following day stuck in the mud with blood spatter inside the car, abandoned on the side of an I-45 access road south of the Galveston Causeway. Now, Mark, her boyfriend and Mark's father, obviously became worried when she didn't show up when she said she was going to, so they drove what route she would take, and they were the ones that found the car. There was actually a single bare footprint in the mud next to the car. Witnesses later claimed that they had seen Shelley's blue Pinto being pursued by a pickup truck, which eventually ran her off the road. They also said that a man got out of the truck, wrapped a shirt around his hand, and started banging on Shelley's car window as if he was going to break it. And I guess he did break it and then dragged her out of the vehicle. This man was described as unshaven, with longish brown hair, dark eyebrows, and a quote-unquote angry pout. Later witness claimed that there had actually been 2 men in the truck, and that one of the men had beaten Shelley before dragging her out of the Pinto. So later on, this case I'll get into a little bit later on, but because there were 2 people that were actually convicted of this, although they never found her body. So all they could get them for was aggravated kidnapping, because, you know, they couldn't get them for murder because they still haven't found her. All that they found of her, the family thought that they found a white blouse that they think belonged to her, where one of her kidnappers, Gerald Peter Zwarst, he actually drew them a map of where they had buried her, although they didn't find the body there. But they did find a blouse, and the family does believe that it's hers. They're not entirely sure. But as I said, her body has still never been found. I'll talk about those 2 jackasses later on.
I think we have one of the biggest online crowds of all times right now.
Of ours, yeah.
76.
Awesome.
We've never broken 100.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've ever broke 80.
Probably not.
No.
Well, see, like I said, I think that a lot of people have been requesting this topic,
Yeah.
so I'm kind of glad that we finally got around to doing it.
Yeah. Well, true crime is always real popular.
Well, and like I said, as depressing as it is, I like doing the kind of more fun topics because I feel like I can joke more. I feel a little bit bad. Like, not
True crime
that
gets
bad.
The most hits.
It does, though. I do feel a little bit bad making jokes on the true crime ones.
Yeah.
I mean, I still do it, but I feel a little bit bad.
Louis
If we're just talking about aliens and shit, I don't.
Louis corrected me. He says we've been at the 80s a couple of times. Louis would know.
That's true. Okay, yeah, I never really noticed.
Hey, thanks, Xanada, man. Thanks fucking...
Oh, thank you, Xanada.
Bro.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's a hard-working young man right there. Hard-working. That's 10 very hard-earned dollars.
Yeah.
From that young man. Thank you very much, Xanada.
Thank you so much. We appreciate all of you guys, seriously.
Yeah, and you need to fucking watch those movies, dude. Fucking chill the fuck out.
Just let it wash over you.
I'm helping Xanada to fucking behind the scenes build a badass rifle. He's building a fucking AR-15 fucking dissipator, which is an 80s throwback. Fucking 16-inch barrel with a fucking carbine length gas system with a fucking A2 style fucking full hand guards with that nice long sight radius, but with a fucking collapsible fucking stock off of the fucking first generation collapsible stock off of a car 15. It looks fucking great. It's gonna look fucking great. He's just getting the pieces together, and the tools he's gonna need to do stuff.
Stop Prop says YouTube doesn't like true crime at all. I don't know. I subscribe to like a shit ton of true crime shit. I like Stephanie Harlow. I like Brain Scratch. Time Suck does a lot of true crime. He does some other shit too, but he does a lot of serial killers and shit like that. So you know, I watch a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one was Suzanne Renee Richardson, who was 22 years old. She was last seen October 7th, 1988. She worked as a night clerk at the Casa Del Mar condominiums. She was seen about 6 a.m., which I guess was the end of her shift. No one really saw what happened to her. Witnesses said that they heard a woman screaming, and they found a shoe that they think belonged to her in the parking lot, but they have never found her. So she was abducted from her workplace.
She was struggling and lost a shoe.
Yeah, and that's all they've ever found of her was just one fucking shoe. How fucking creepy is that?
Somebody grabbed her ass.
That's fucking creepy. Yeah, well, obviously.
There was another case unrelated. McDuff and his friend used to they were fucking real assholes because it was kind of detailed the tortures they would do to them. They'd do things like pull up into they'd see a girl washing her car at a car wash, and they'd pull up next to the car wash, and it would, one of the open spaces of the car wash between the brick walls, which would make her invisible on 3 sides. And then they would both run out the fucking sliding door on the side of the van and grab the fucking woman and haul her in, beat on her a little bit, handcuff her, fucking, restrain her, and then drive away. That's how easy it was. And victimology is that they would just choose a woman who was small.
Yeah.
That's what they were looking for. If she was small and cute, she couldn't give them a hard time.
So I guess I'm safe. It's like, yeah, try to pick me up, motherfucker.
They were
my ass is dense.
They were looking for like 5 foot and under and around 110.
Well, yeah, because you can just pick them up and run off with them.
Pick them up and run with them. Yeah.
Because they're small.
That's what they did.
Yeah.
And if you've ever fought a motherfucker who's much bigger than you, I'm 5'6". I've only fought dudes that were bigger than me, and sometimes more than one. And I mostly lost because I was always against superior opponents. I fucking hate bullies. I never fucking go to fucking fists with somebody who's smaller than me because you're gonna be able to reason it out. It's always a big motherfucker. You can't you know what I mean? If a dude can pick you up, you're fucking toast. You're toast. Because you just can't.
Well, you can't do anything at that point. You can't get any leverage.
You can't get any fucking leverage. You just like
scary.
Something out of a damn cartoon. They picked you up and you just wailing and trying to put some fucking body weight.
I mean, all you can do is wiggle so much that they let go of you and then run like hell. That's all you can do.
You can't get a good connect. It'd be like floating in a swimming pool. If you guys have never fought, imagine you're floating in a swimming pool, trying to hit the wall real hard. You wouldn't be able to because every time you hit, you'd move back. It's like that.
I know, it's scary.
Yeah.
Another true crime one I like too. So what's her name? I think her name's Bailey Sarian. And she does, I think it's called Murder and Makeup Mondays or Mystery and Makeup Mondays, something like that. But she is super cute, and she puts on makeup, and she does like different makeup every time and then talks about a true crime case at the same time. It's like, it doesn't seem like it would work, but it's like, I don't know. I really like it. It's really, there's something. And she's super funny too. Like, I really like her a lot. Okay, so the next one, this woman was last seen sometime in 1991. Now, for again, just like in the previous case of Audrey Cook, this was a Jane Doe, or although they actually called her Janet Doe because she was the second one that was unidentified. Now, they found her in September 8th, 1991. She was found in the 3000 block of Calder Road, just like several of the other victims. At the time that the body was found, they estimated that she was 24 to 34 years old, 5 foot tall to 5'3", about 100 to 130 pounds, had been dead 6 weeks to several months prior to being found. Coroner thought she had probably been strangled to death. She had also been severely beaten around the face and head. 2019, genealogy finally identified her as 34-year-old Donna Prudhomme, who had last been seen sometime in 1991. Not a lot of information about her, but they finally identified her just this past year. Next to another pair of young teenage girls. Lynette Bibbs was 14 and Tamara Fisher was 15. They were last seen February 1st, 1996. They were both at a teen club. And they were there with a friend of theirs, a dude who was older. I think he was 22. I don't know if they had known him for a long time, if he was like a friend of theirs, or if he was just some like weird rando that they had met. I don't really know. This 22-year-old guy claimed that he was at the teen club with them and then he dropped them off. Although, what's a 22-year-old doing hanging out at a teen club, for one thing? That seems a little
What
fishy.
year was this?
96.
Yeah, it's too late to be doing that. Back in the 70s, you could get away with it. But
Yeah, 90s, it'd be like, creeper.
Yeah.
And they would be right. So,
Yeah.
So he said that he had dropped both the girls off at a motel on Old Spanish Trail in Houston. However, 2 days later, their bodies were found off the side of a dirt road near Cleveland, Texas. They had both been shot to death, but for whatever reason, police suspected that they had been shot by different people. I don't know, probably because it was 2 different firearms. That doesn't mean it was 2 different people, but I can see where they're coming from. But yeah, so there was that one. Now, the next one, Crystal Baker, 13. This was another kind of high-profile case, although this one was the one that was solved, the one that you were talking about earlier. This was one of the few that was actually solved. Crystal Baker was 13 years old. She was last seen March 5th, 1996. Now, she had been at her grandmother's house, and apparently they got into an argument about something, I think because she had skipped school or something. So she kind of took off from her grandparents' house. She was seen at a convenience store, or a tire store, rather. And she was using the phone in the tire store, and she called up her family and said she was sorry, and she said she needed a ride home from the store. Now, she called the grandmother, she called her parents, she called a bunch of other friends and relatives, but apparently no one could give her a ride. So it's possible she either tried to walk, to the house, I think it was 5 miles, or she tried to hitchhike to there. But regardless of what happened, she didn't make it. 2 hours after she was last seen, her body was found. She had been raped, strangled, and dumped over the I-10 Trinity River Bridge. Yeah,
it's sad because the mom didn't find out till 2 weeks later because it happened in another county. She was looking for her daughter, and the cops, they weren't communicating with each other.
I feel like that, I feel like, this was 90s. I feel like that might have been, I don't want to blame the cops necessarily, but I do feel like this kind of whole interdepartmental, we're keeping information, this was in this city or this was in this county, and they're not sharing information, and I think that might have been a factor in why a lot of these are not solved. Just saying.
Local law enforcement sees things, at least here in the United States at the state level, they see things in terms of counties.
Yeah.
And one county may not talk to surrounding counties. Or they do, but it might take them a while to send that. And that's what happened. Is eventually, like a week or so later, that county reported to the other counties of what had been happening. And in that packet of information was that they had found that body.
Yeah.
And that's how the other county where she went missing found out. It's probably not like that today.
It's better now because
internet.
Everything is a lot more interconnected.
Internet, yeah.
So, people, there's nationwide databases and shit. It's still not great, but it's obviously a lot better than it was back then.
Well, there's just live stuff like Facebook and fucking and YouTube will help too, because a high profile case rises to the top. And everybody in the whole area goes, well, wait a minute, is that girl they just found today here in my county? You know what I mean? That's that kind of shit.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what's sad. It's like they found the girl's body like 2 hours after she was last seen, but because of jurisdictional shit, her mom still was hoping she was going to come home for like 2 weeks before they're like, oh.
She was found a couple hours
by
later.
the way, she was dead. She's been dead this whole time. We found her. Like the same day she went missing, we found her a couple hours later.
Kind of gets back to some of the stuff that I was saying on the other show, is that technology is advancing so quickly that a lot of aspects of government, federal and state government, is becoming obsolete. There's better, faster, more efficient ways of doing this kind of stuff. And the laws have not caught up with technology. How can it? Because technology changes much faster than laws can.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to work out what fucking government is now. Because, the government, especially at the federal level of what we have, the whole concept was from the 1700s. Back when it took weeks to fucking ride by horse. You know what I mean? To get to the Capitol and all kind. It's not like that anymore. You don't need a centralized place. Everybody can do this from their house now. So you can govern from your house. There's all kinds of fucking things that could happen to make government better. And it hasn't happened yet, but...
Well, like I said, everything's really, really slow.
Yeah, too slow, really too crazy, too inefficient. It's just... And then the agencies that are doing it are not fucking... are crazy. Like, who runs the government? Do the elected officials run it, or do the intelligence agencies run it? Who runs the fucking federal government? They don't seem to know. There seems to be an argument about that. But let's get back to the fucking show.
Yeah, so as I said, the Crystal Baker case, I'm going to go a little bit more into this later when I talk about suspects and convictions and everything. But the Crystal Baker case was actually solved. The dude that killed her, Kevin Edison Smith, who was 45 years old, he was convicted of capital murder in 2012, sentenced to life in prison. Just last year, 2019, Governor Greg Abbott signed into law the Crystal Jean Baker Act, which permits the collection of DNA from individuals arrested for certain felonies prior to conviction, which they hope will clear some cold cases. So it was her murder that spurred the passage of that law. Next one was Laura Smither, who was 12 years old. Last seen April 3rd, 1997. Now, Laura, this is sad because she was only 12. I think she was only about 20 days from her 13th birthday, and she was super excited about becoming a teenager. She was like marking every single day, and she was like really jazzed about it. So this little girl, she was really, really into ballet dancing. Her family was like, she was just like this beautiful, she was super, super smart. Just this wonderful, compassionate little girl. Everybody loved her. She lived with her dad and her stepmother. Her biological mother had died of breast cancer while Laura was still a baby. She lived in Friendswood, Texas, which, at the time of her disappearance, was actually one of the top 10 safest cities in the United States.
Yeah.
Not after this, though, sadly. So basically, because she was a ballet dancer and she wanted to make a career of that. So she wanted to be like the best she could be. Like they said, she would practice all the time. She was super into it. So she decided that she was going to, she was going to do an exercise regimen. So on this particular morning, April 3rd, 1997, she told her parents they were making breakfast. They were making pancakes with chocolate chips in them, which was like her favorite thing. And she's like, I'm going to go for a jog. And they said, well, we're making breakfast though. And she's like, well, how long is that going to take? And they said 20 minutes. She'll be back. I'll be back in 20 minutes. I'm just going to do like a quick jog. So she went out for a run and did not come back. 17 days later, her body was found in a retention pond in Pasadena, Texas. She was found nude except for tan socks. Her parents actually ended up later, there was an interview with them on several of the documentaries. They actually ended up establishing the Laura Recovery Center in 1998, which, again, is, helps out victims of kidnapping and stuff like that. So, it's a nonprofit organization. Now, Laura Smither, even though this one is not solved in the case there wasn't a conviction, but they're pretty sure they knew who did this one. And this was a motherfucker named William Lewis Reese, who we will talk about later on. He was actually convicted of a couple of the other ones, but they think that he probably did this one too, because they found out later when they were indicting him for some of the other crimes that he was driving a bulldozer, I guess like in the same neighborhood where the Smithers lived. They were building a new, a new neighborhood, like new houses. And this dude was driving a bulldozer like right where she would have jogged. And
Xander and Sass are fucking with me saying that I look lit. I'm not lit, man. I'm looking at my pad reading what you guys are saying. I am fucked up though.
Are you really?
Yeah. Well, my shit was fucking twice as strong as yours.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, yeah, I want shit a bit weaker so I can at least like kind of at least like read what
I
I'm
remember
fucking doing.
last time.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to lose track of my shit. Although
Right.
this one, like I said,
you got it pretty. It's going.
I'm pretty like organized with this shit because I've been like researching this for like days and days, and I have all like my
this
notes
one
are
is
real
chock
organized.
full of facts too. I like this one.
Do you really?
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
So all right. So interestingly, the motherfucker I just mentioned, William Lewis Reese. One of the ways they caught him, like I said, he hasn't been convicted of the Laura Smither one, although they're pretty sure that he did that one too. But this is how this motherfucker ended up getting caught. So, May of 1997, which was only like a month after Laura Smither disappeared, there was this 19-year-old woman named Sandra Sapaw. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Sapo, something like that. So, okay, she'd been having a rough day. She decided she was going to leave her husband. She had a couple kids, like little kids. She had packed up all her shit from the apartment that she shared with her husband. She had taken the kids to their grandparents' house, and she was going to leave her husband and she was going to go stay at a motel. So she goes to the motel, and it was booked. Now, she had all her shit in her van, and she's just kind of like, well, shit, now what am I going to do now? So she stops at a convenience store, and, not a lot of cell phones in 1997. She stops at a convenience store at a payphone, calls a friend of hers, and is basically like, what am I going to do? Can I stay there? Do you have some other place I can stay or whatever? So while she's on the phone, she sees this guy and hanging around, kind of watching her. And she even said to the friend, it's like, there's this dude who's kind of hanging around over there by the dumpster, and he's kind of creeping me out. She described him, he's a white male, about 5'9", 200 pounds, dirty blonde, slicked back hair and a mustache, with bags under his eyes and kind of stubble. He had on jeans, a white t-shirt, and a black cowboy hat, driving an oversized white Ford or Chevy dually pickup, older model, possibly a diesel, with an aluminum toolbox on the bed and a black stripe along the side. Now, at some point, either while she was still on the phone or after she got off the phone and was going back to her car, the dude approaches her and says, "Hey, I just noticed that your van has a flat tire. You want me to help you fix it?" I guess the tire really was flat. Probably he had flattened it, motherfucker. And so she was like, okay, even though she was kind of creeped out by him. So he was like, "Hey, why don't you go get the jack or something like that, like out of my truck?" While she did that, he came up behind her, put a knife to her throat, and forced her into the truck. Drove her away in the truck, started beating on her, and tried to rape her. But she jumped out the fucking truck. Scraped her fucking shit all up on the fucking... because the truck was moving. But she jumped out. Wisely, as it turned out. Because this dude was probably a serial killer.
Everybody's saying this show's on point, that you're doing great, Jenny.
Well, thank you. Because we're not going off on...
Yeah, we're not going off on
like
tangents.
I said, I don't mind going off on tangents, but sometimes if the tangents go way too long, and then I get like... Then sometimes we'll go off on all these tangents, and I'll get like drunk, and then I'll forget where I was.
Well, that's the problem. A lot of the time, the tangents are so alcohol-fueled that it never untangents itself. It's just a constant...
Well, I mean, after we
finish
finish the case, we can go off on some tangents if you want. That's fine. So yeah, she jumps out of the fucking car. And good for her. Now, she jumped out the car, and then she looks up and she sees the fucking truck coming around, and he's come back and fucking get her. So she runs into the fucking highway and flags the car down. Wisely, like I said, as it turned out. So another car stops. It was a 26-year-old woman driving the car named Minerva Torres. And she was like, "Girl, get in this fucking car." And she took her to the hospital. So she ended up having to get a whole bunch. She didn't have any broken bones, but she had like a bunch. She had like her head was all fucked up and it needed stitches, and she had like all kind of abrasions and shit like that all over. So she was in the hospital for 3 days so they could make sure she didn't have any internal injuries. And then she left the hospital 3 days later. So the man who tried to kidnap this woman was later found to be the motherfucker that I just mentioned in relation to the case of Laura Smither, and whose name will come up again in a few minutes. William Lewis Reese. He had an almost identical vehicle, although after it got out that what the truck looked like, he took the aluminum toolbox out and put like a camper shell like on the back and stuff, so he'd like be all sneaky about it. But he had like pretty much the same car that she described. When they brought her in for a lineup, like they arrested him and brought her in for a lineup, and she immediately was like, "Yeah, that's that dude right there. That's that motherfucker. I recognize him." So he actually ended up getting convicted of aggravated kidnapping. There were speculations that prosecutors would also try to get him for the Laura Smither murder because they thought he was in the very same street where Laura Smither got taken from on the day that she was killed. But they didn't think they had enough evidence to convict him of that, and they were afraid that he might get off on a technicality or something like that. So we have everything for the aggravated kidnapping. He's been identified by the victim. He was identified by a clerk at the convenience store. So we think we have him on that, and they did get him on that. So he did go to prison. And he might have been involved in a couple of these other ones too. Next case, Jessica Kane, 17 years old. Last seen August 17th, 1997. Now, Jessica was actually, sadly, ironically, was planning on, she was a really, really good student, had gotten way ahead in credits in high school, and she was planning on majoring in criminology in college. On the night she vanished, she had actually been in a theater production. She had played Marilyn Monroe in a 50s musical revival at a local theater. Her parents had been there watching her. After the show ended, a bunch of the other cast were going to have a cast party at a restaurant. I think it was a Bennigan's. So they were all going to go there and hang out. So she was at the Bennigan's with her friends until about 1:30 a.m. At which time she said, I'm really tired. I don't really feel that good. So I'm just going to go ahead and head home. Now, she had her dad's pickup truck that she'd been driving. So she started driving toward home. But she never got there. Her dad went out looking for her when she didn't come back home, when she hadn't arrived back home a few hours later. And her father found the truck abandoned along I-45 South, about 4 miles from their home, with Jessica's purse still inside, all her ID and everything. No signs of a struggle. Police noted that a light-colored truck with a toolbox in the back bed, much like the truck of that Reese motherfucker, had been spotted in the area around the time of the disappearance. 19 years later, Jessica's remains were found in a field off of East Orem Road next to Hobby Airport. Again, suspected serial killer William Lewis Reese, the same guy that we talked about in conjunction with the last 2 cases, actually told investigators to search the area where her remains were found, so they presume that he killed Jessica Kane as well. 2016, he was indicted for the murders of Jessica Kane and Laura Smither. Now, that was kind of the last one. Like I said, from the 70s to the 90s, those were, I hate to use the word canonical. That's what they usually always use for, like, the Jack the Ripper murders. But there were a couple of other ones that took place kind of outside of that that may have been related. Not really sure. There was this one woman, like, in 2001 named Tot Harriman. Now, she was older. She was 57. She was actually driving between League City and Corpus Christi, Texas, looking for a new house. And she was last seen driving her 1995 Lincoln Continental along Highway 35 and disappeared. She has never been found. There was also a woman named Sarah Trusty, who was 23. She was last seen July 12th, 2002. She lived in Algoa, Texas. I guess that's how you pronounce that. She left in the early evening and was riding her bike around the Algoa Baptist Church. The next day, her bike was found in the front part of the church, and 14 days later, her body was found by fishermen in the Texas City Dike. She was found July 27th. Now, so those, I think there was maybe one more. Yeah, there's maybe one more. Teresa Venegas, who was 16, she was actually, this is the most recent one. She was last seen on Halloween of 2006. Last seen walking near the Green K subdivision on Halloween night. 3 days later, her body was found strangled, raped, and with her hair cut off in a field across from Dickinson High School. She was found on November 3rd, 2006. So, as I said, at least 30, possibly more, because a lot of them disappeared, but a lot of fucking bodies found in this fucking area. So now let's talk about some of the suspects. Now, this first guy that we're going to talk about, you mentioned this because you saw this on the documentary. This dude, probably the worst fucking luck ever, because I don't think, even though he's listed under the suspects, I really don't think this dude had anything to do with it. Yeah, so this is fucked up. So back in the 70s, when the initial murders were happening, 1972, there was a dude named Michael Lloyd Self. Now, he worked at a gas station. Now, he was a convicted sex offender. I think it had been a case of, like, he got fixated on this one particular, because he was a little bit slow, okay? He was a little mentally slow. So I think he had gotten fixated on this one woman, and I think he'd been kind of like stalking her or peeping or whatever. So I think he was convicted for that. I don't think it was anything, I'm not saying that's good. I'm just not saying it was like super, super serious. So now he ended up becoming a suspect in the murders of Rhonda Renee Johnson and Sharon Shaw, mostly because he, I guess he, worked at a gas station in the area. I guess he sort of knew them, but he was real interested in the case. The weird thing about it is that he was really, really into true crime, and he was really into cops. Like, he really liked cops. He liked to hang out with cops and talk to them about their cases, and it was just like an interest for him. So there wasn't a lot of crime in the area. So when these 2 girls got murdered, it was kind of a big deal. So he sort of wanted to talk to everybody about it, but the more he talked to everybody about it, people started getting suspicious, like maybe he had done it. And as I said, he was in the area and he did kind of know them. At least they were like acquaintances because they lived in the same area. Now, what ended up happening is they bring in Michael Self for questioning. Now, no one's entirely sure what happened in that interrogation room. I have some suspicions. But after several hours of the interrogation, he confessed to the murders. Although I will note that his first confession was not real accurate to the facts of the crimes.
I want to announce that we're at 81.
Nice.
Yeah, which is pretty good. So Hernandez was right. I didn't realize that we actually got up to sometimes 80 viewers. This is near a record, though.
Yeah.
For this little show.
That's cool.
I would imagine if we had like 300 on there. Man, there are some shows that I watch, man, like they're fucking bumping like 4,000 people fucking live. I would love to have a show that big. But I just think YouTube's against us.
I don't think it's that. I think shows that get, I don't know. It's like, I just kind of feel like a lot of shows that get real popular are ones that are just kind of like, hey, let's shit on everything and insult people and do that kind of shit. People like watching negative shit.
No, they're just having fun. They're having fun, but it does have a negative element sometimes, but...
And I don't like watching shows like that. But, you know, I guess a lot of people do.
It just depends on what... It's what the market loves that kind of shit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't like that kind of shit. That kind of shit annoys me.
Kind of shit.
But a lot of people do.
We try to keep the show fucking balanced for everybody. But if we were to, like, you know, go hardcore one side or the other, it'd probably pick up some. But that's not the nature of this show. But...
Well, I wouldn't really enjoy it either. I mean, I just feel like it would... Because shit like that annoys me, like I said.
Well, we do have fun, though. And some of the shit that annoys you, that have fun, all of a sudden we'll get super chats. Bum, 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 because it is funny. Do you know where the money really comes in, Jenny? And is when I pick them boobs up. When I lift those boobs, next thing you know, like $30, $40 comes in.
And they're so heavy.
They're fucking heavy boobs. We're going to have a video one of these days of just me weighing a boob. We're going to like weigh a boob on a digital scale and shit.
It's a boob weighing
It's going to be a
video.
boob drop. Cool, like that. We're going to put that shit on. Yeah. Even the girls will pay.
That's going to be a really... I'm just trying to like... Because we have that digital scale that's like really close to the ground. I'm like, man, I'm really going to have to lay in an awkward position.
You guys know the deal with this team here. We got real fucking Miss Analytical. She's going to fucking do all the research and everything. I'm more like fucking... I feel like I'm fucking... P.T. Barnum. I'm more of the fucking salesman than a showman. Yeah,
it is like that. But I think that's probably why it works. That's why a lot of people seem to like it, because we have like... We're coming at it from like two different
totally different styles.
Because we have two completely kind of... I don't know. We have two really different personalities, but we have like a lot of similarities too.
Yeah,
but...
we've been partners in crime for fucking more than 10 years. About 10 years.
A long time.
So, yeah. And it started in nightclubs.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We're fucking good... Before we were even fucking a couple, we were good friends. And we were fucking...
Yeah, because I think we were hanging out for like a year and a half.
Before
Like, before you got together.
I was hanging out with you when you were married.
Yeah, you were.
That's why that dude thought I stole you. I didn't steal you. He just lost you.
I just left.
You know, yeah. Because then we were single for about another 18 months, and we were fucking hooking up with other people at the nightclub. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
But, you know.
That was my slut days. Fucking
everybody's days is a slut day. So everybody is a slut day. We're talking about all days are slut days. It's fucking fun.
Nothing wrong with sluts. Sluts are awesome.
No, what are you talking about?
Sluts are awesome.
When you get down to it, okay, all you motherfuckers are sluts. And I can prove it. Okay, I can prove it. If I were to know the details, I can point it out. It says, look, you're a hoe here, you're a slut here, and you're a bitch right there. You're a bitch, a slut, and a hoe. See, I can do it to anybody.
Sure.
Anybody can do that to anybody. So it's a moot point. It's not true. It's not true.
Well, like I said, it's when you call somebody a slut, it seems like you're trying to shame them.
It's shallow. It's shallow.
You know,
yeah.
You can't shame me. I don't have any shame.
Another thing is, I'm getting off track. I got to get back in here.
You can't shame me. I don't have any shame. But yeah. So this allegedly poor motherfucker, Michael Self. So I said, so they got him to sign a confession. But the first confession, there was a lot of details. Like, he said shit like, I picked up one of the girls from their house, which they knew wasn't true, because both the girls were, like, out on the street. He said, yeah, I hit them both in the head with a Coke bottle and knocked them out. Not true, because there was no head trauma at all. So there was like a lot of details that was in the first confession that were obviously, you know, didn't line up with the facts of the case. But weirdly, what ended up happening was that later he retracted his confession because he said, look, the cops essentially tortured him into, I mean, they beat the shit out of him, allegedly. This is what Michael Self said. And he said one of the cops put one round in the chamber of his service revolver, spun it, and then put it to his head and pulled the trigger. And basically threatened, hey, sign the confession or I'll blow your head off, essentially. So Michael Self was scared, as you would be, because like I said, he wasn't all there. He was a little slow. So he was terrified, and he's like, okay, fine, I'll sign whatever you want. Now, the second confession came out, and interestingly, even though the first one was kind of wildly all over the place and had a lot of details that didn't line up with the crimes, second one sounded just like the crimes. And they got him to sign that one too. Because like I said, I'm pretty sure they were threatened to like beat the shit out of him and shoot him in the face. So he was like, whatever, I'll fucking sign anything.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna let her out. Oh, hold on.
All right.
I gotta send a message and I'm gonna let her out.
You be good, Pookie. Don't you go anyplace. But yeah, he said that the cops, like, tried to suffocate him with a plastic bag. They were, like, burning him with cigarettes, all kind of shit. And that the police chief would beat him up. So, sadly, the confession, even though there was not a shred of physical evidence tying this guy to the murder, to this double murder, the confession was enough that he got convicted and he got life in prison. Now, 3 years after this, in 1976, Don Morris, who was the police chief, and the deputy, Tommy Deal, who were two of the guys that he had accused of beating the shit out of him, like essentially beating a confession and torturing a confession out of him, those two guys, they got arrested and convicted. They were fucking... Not only were they torturing and, beating up on other suspects, like to get them to confess, they were also fucking bank robbers. They had robbed a whole bunch of banks while this was going on, while he was the police chief, while he was a deputy. They were going to another small town. They were robbing banks like all over this fucking place, right? And they were also beating up other suspects and shit like that, okay? So they got convicted of that. But, which you would think that when that shit came out, people would be like, hey, maybe we should look into that Michael Self guy. Maybe he's innocent and we should let him out. They did kind of look into that, like some appeals and shit, but didn't work. He had a bunch of appeals, and basically what the appeal said is, I'm not a lawyer, but the legalese type of shit, the gist of it was that, well, back in the day, you had the chance to say that your confession was coerced, which he did, but they're like, well, you didn't prove it back then, so we can't overturn the jury's decision, so you gotta stay in jail. So all his appeals were used up, and he stayed in fucking jail. And he died in prison in 2000, still in jail. Even though 99% sure he didn't do that shit. That he just got beat into a confession, and then he ended up in jail and he died in there. So, special. So yeah, that was kind of like a fucking sad story. Now let's talk about this motherfucker, Edward Harold Bell. Now, a lot of investigators think this dude is like the prime suspect, at least for the 70s era murders. This dude, crazy. This dude is so fucking crazy. So, this guy, he was a suspect in the 1970s, so he was like on the investigators' radar, right? Now, his big thing, he was kind of an exhibitionist. He'd been arrested about a dozen times on charges of showing his genitals to children. He was real fond of finding some kids hanging out somewhere, pulling up in his car, getting out of his car with no pants on, and jerking it in front of children.
Damn.
He was super, super into that. So yeah. He lived, around the time that the murders were going on, he did live in Galveston, and he actually, matter of fact, he either owned a surf shop there or was part owner of like a surf shop or a dive shop or something like that. He actually did know two of the victims, Debbie Ackerman and Maria Johnson, who had disappeared at the same time. They came in his store all the time. And he later wrote a letter to Galveston authorities claiming responsibility for those two murders in particular. And he got details about the crime, right, such as the caliber of the gun that had been used, .357 Magnum, and the position of the gunshot wounds. Like, they said that it looked like one of the girls had been shot from above, and he said in the letter, yeah, I stood up on the bridge and shot her from up there. So, so his shit checked out. So, mid-1970s, he actually bought a plot of land in Dickinson, Texas, and ended up living near the place where two of the other victims, Brooks Bracewell and Georgia Gear, who also disappeared at the same time, were last seen alive. 1978, this is interesting. 1978, Bell was doing his thing where he was jerking it on the street in front of a bunch of kids, because that was what he did. As you do. Just get out of the car with no pants on. Start jerking it in front of little children. So he started doing that. I think it was teenage girls this time. Not that that makes it better. So he was doing that. And a former Marine named Larry Dickens, who was 26 years old, came out his house, I think, and was like, hey, knock that shit off. As you would, hopefully. And Ed Bell ended up shooting this dude. I mean, he essentially, like, executed him. He shot him, I think, 4 times in the chest. And then Larry was still alive, and he was still kicking. And, like, Ed, basically, in the fucking driveway, in the middle of the day, kind of sits on the dude's body and just, like, shoots him in the fucking head. So he kills him, like, executes him in his own fucking driveway. Now, interestingly, this is a fun fact. When this case was featured on Unsolved Mysteries back in the 90s, I want to say. It was Robert Stack was still alive. They covered this on Unsolved Mysteries, and the person playing Larry Dickens, the dude that got killed, was none other than Matthew McConaughey. This was his first acting role, I think. Was on Unsolved Mysteries, playing this dude that got killed by Ed Bell in the whole Texas Killing Fields thing. So at this point, after Edward killed this dude, he fled Texas and actually got out of the United States. And actually, the police did not find him for almost 20 years, more than 20 years afterwards. 1994, he gets arrested in Panama, and he got extradited back to the U.S. And then he got convicted of Dickens' murder, and he got a 70-year sentence for that. Now, 1998, he starts writing all these weird fucking letters to the Harris County attorney, and he confessed that he had killed 5 girls in 1971 and 6 more between 1974 and 1977. Now, these girls, he called these murders the 11 who went to heaven. And these consisted of, and the details that he gave, very, very similar to the 11 victims that I talked about, other than Allison Craven, who may have been, that might have been another murderer. But, so he's looking pretty good for that kind of shit. He did confess to it. He knew some details about the shit. He didn't remember a lot of their names. But he did remember, I killed Debbie Ackerman and Maria Johnson because, like I said, he knew them because they had come into his surf shop or his dive shop or whatever. He was pretty sure he had killed Colin Wilson. He was pretty sure he had killed Kimberly Pitchford. He remembered her last name. And he remembered he'd killed 2 other ones, but he couldn't remember their names. But he said, I abducted him from Webster in August 1971. That would have been Renee Johnson and Sharon Shaw. So a lot of shit he said in the letters like lined up with what the crimes were. Now, despite that, though, they didn't have a lot of physical evidence tying him to the crimes, other than his confession. And also, like I said, he seemed pretty crazy because, you guys are going to love this, the reason that he gave for all the jerking in front of kids, all the murdering, all the shit that he was doing, was because, I'm not sure if I can completely do justice to this because I'm not insane, but his excuse was that there was a secret government program and it was mind controlling him. He called it the program. That's just what he called it. And he said that it was like I think he said it was a 7-step program and the government was trying to see if they could turn a good person, like him, presumably, into an evil person. The first step of the program, if I remember correctly, was making you gay. There was also, what else was in there? There was some other steps in there about making you use your penis to do things you don't want to do. I think the last step was making you a Jesus freak. So essentially he was saying that government mind control made him kill people and jerk off in front of children. That was his excuse.
Did it make him gay?
No.
Well, he said they were trying to make him gay, right?
Yeah, well, that was supposedly the first step in the program. I think it was the first step.
So he
that was the first step.
He went ahead. He tipped his fucking hand right there. He showed us his cards.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This all started with him looking at men, thinking maybe I should do that. Okay. And then he blamed it on somebody else. Okay. This is like some shit out of fucking Dr. Strangelove, where you launch the nuclear weapons because you can't get a hard on. Remember that?
That's essentially what it is.
That's what he's talking about.
I hate to say it, but it's like in a lot of these serial killer cases, it really is that simple. It's just a dick thing. It's a dick thing. My dick can't get hard, so
it's
therefore,
time to kill a motherfucker.
So it's time to kill somebody, or they come up with some elaborate framework that is obviously just making up
purity
for their
of essence,
lack of dick erection.
Fluoridation in the water has made me not get it up, so I'm gonna launch the nuclear missiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's dude logic. Dude logic. That's what that is.
That was a great movie. It
really was. I need to watch that again, actually. Yeah. But yeah, so this crazy ass mother. I mean, okay. How crazy could he be, though? Because he ran a bunch of businesses successfully, as far as I know. After he killed people, he did manage to, like, get the fuck out of the country and evade the authorities for more than 20 years. So he can't have been that crazy. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if he was just using that. I mean, yes, it does sound like schizophrenia. That kind of shit, like, oh, the government's mind controlling me and making me jerk off in front of children. But on the other hand, was he just using that as an excuse to get away with shit? I don't really know. Happily, this motherfucker died in 2019. Not so happily, they never did have enough physical evidence to convict him of any of the murders, although I think most investigators are pretty sure that he at least did some of the murders from the 70s, if not all 11 of them. He knew a lot of details about a lot of the crimes that led them to believe that probably he had something to do with it. So now let's talk about this motherfucker that we mentioned before, William Lewis Reese. So in May of 1997, Reese was arrested for the kidnapping and attempted murder of 19-year-old Sandra Sepaw, which I mentioned before. She got away from him. Now, the following year, he got found guilty of that, and he was convicted. He got 60 years imprisonment. Now, 2015, because they also did some DNA matching, his DNA matched to another murder, which is like not even related to the Texas Killing Fields murders. This was another woman, a 19-year-old named Tiffany Johnson, and she was actually found murdered in Oklahoma in 1997. So DNA like linked him to that one. And then once they confronted him with that information, he also came forward and said that he had also killed Jessica Kane, the girl, the 17-year-old that had disappeared. They found her car abandoned on the side of the road. He said he killed her too. And he also killed another girl named Kelly Cox somewhere else. And he actually apparently like led the cops to where they were buried. So that seems a pretty good indicator of guilt there. As I said earlier, he's also suspected in the kidnapping and killing of 12-year-old Laura Smither. But they didn't have enough physical evidence at the time. Although, like I said, he was driving a bulldozer along that exact same street on that exact same day when she disappeared. And he's killed a bunch of other people. So it seems pretty obvious that he did that as well. So the next guy we're going to talk about, Clyde Edwin Hedrick. This guy, so March of 2014, this dude got sentenced to 20 years in prison for involuntary manslaughter for the 1984 beating death of 29-year-old real estate office receptionist Ellen Ray Beeson. Now, Hedrick was the person last seen with Beeson. They had been out at a nightclub in League City, Texas. It was called the Texas Moon. Interestingly, this nightclub was the same one that Heidi Faye, one of the other victims of the Texas Killing Fields, she went to this nightclub as well. So Hedrick was seen with Ellen Beeson on this particular night in July of 1984. He initially told investigators that he had left the club with her and that she had decided to go swimming and that she had drowned and that he had hidden her body. But then later, when they re-examined the body, they found that she'd actually been beaten to death. And they determined that probably he had killed her and then just dumped her along a dirt road in Galveston. So Clyde Hedrick is also suspected in the murders of Heidi Fye, who, like I said, went to that same nightclub. Maybe Laura Miller, maybe Michelle Garvey, and possibly Audrey Cook, who was the first Jane Doe. They actually wanted to present evidence of Hedrick linking him to the murders of Heidi Fye and Laura Miller, but the link was never made. Miller's father, Tim, who, like I said, founded EquiSearch, suspected Hedrick murdered his daughter. But this was after he got over this whole Robert Abel thing. Because let's talk about these two guys. Robert Abel and Mark Stallings. Now, these two dudes... Okay, so Robert Abel he worked for NASA. He was a rocket scientist, is what he was. Brilliant, a little weird, but, you know, a lot of people that are that intelligent are a little weird. Now, he initially came on the police's radar for some of these crimes because he owned a piece of land like right adjacent to the Calder oil field where like a bunch of the bodies had been found. And also the FBI had drawn up a profile of the killer, particularly these the ones that occurred in the 80s. And he pretty much fit that profile to a T. One of the aspects that they were talking about was cruelty to animals, and two of his ex-wives said that he was very, very cruel to his horses. He had like a horse farm. He ran a business. It was essentially like a horseback riding ranch or something. So like people would come and pay like to ride horses. So he had that. And his ex-wives said that he would beat his horses with an iron bar. And when they died, he would just kind of like leave them out in the field, like for the vultures to eat them, and like that he was real weird like that. So there was that whole thing. And like I said, he fit a lot of the things of the FBI profile. He was very meticulous. He was very organized. He had a piece of land right next to where a lot of the bodies were found, like the land where a lot of the bodies were found. So they thought he was a little bit suspicious. Now, Tim Miller, who was Laura's father, one of the victims, as I said, he founded EquiSearch later on. For a time, he was absolutely convinced that Robert Abel was a serial killer. And that he had particularly killed Laura Miller and probably, possibly several other victims as well. He was so convinced of this that he essentially harassed the guy day and night. He would like turn up at his house. He had the cops come and search the property. They didn't find anything. He would like fucking, I don't know. He just like hung out outside his house. He like put fucking shit in his mailbox, stuff like that. Or put letters in his mailbox. He didn't put actual shit in his mailbox that I know of. And at one point, too, I think he actually went to his house to talk to him, and the guy said something sideways, and Tim Miller apparently put a gun in his face and was going to shoot him. Now, what ended up happening with that was that, as convinced as he was, finally, after a time, Tim Miller became convinced. He's like, man, I just got so focused on this one guy that I lost my head. Like, he kind of felt like after he pulled the gun in the dude's face, he was just kind of like, whoa, man, I just like went way the fuck out there. And then when he looked into it, because they couldn't really find any physical evidence tying him to it, and he's like, and I'm essentially like ruining this dude's life because I'm just like harassing him, I'm ruining his reputation. So, because the guy lost his job and all this other kind of shit. So the two men reconciled, I guess, and Robert Abel said, that he forgave him and shit. However, I believe it was in 2005, Robert Abel drove his little ATV onto a railroad track and let a train hit him. Was it suicide? Probably. I think it was ruled an accident, but it wasn't really ruled a suicide because he didn't leave a note or nothing. But some people that knew him said, well, he had just been harassed so much and like got tied with these murders that he couldn't really get a job anymore. He couldn't, like, his whole life was ruined. So he just decided he was going to take himself out. But the weird thing, though, is that there was this dude who worked for Robert Abel named Mark Stallings. Now, Mark Stallings, who worked on this ranch, was actually a convicted kidnapper, which we'll get into in a minute. Now, he confessed to killing a girl in 1991. This was in 2013. And later dumped her body in the fields. Now, this girl, this woman that he later confessed to killing, they think might have been Donna Prudhomme, who was initially known as Janet Doe, one of the Texas Killing Fields crimes. So this guy confessed to killing her in 2013. Now, he said, I don't know if this is true or not, he said that Donna was a sex worker who told him that she would do him for $10 because she needed $10 to buy crack. Like I said, I don't know if that's true or not. Because this dude got some issues with women, does not like prostitutes, and probably killed 2 or 3 other prostitutes. So I don't really know if you want to believe anything he says, but he did confess to killing who they later think was Donna Prudhomme. Now, at the time of the murder, Mark Stallings was living and working in League City, Texas, and was kind of in the area where some of the girls went missing and were murdered. He also got charged with a burglary in 1991. In 1996, he went to prison for shooting an old man through a window, which seems not very sporting. The aggravated kidnapping charge, which he was convicted of in 2013, that actually stemmed from him being in jail for another thing, and then he took a guard hostage with a gun that someone had smuggled in for him. So then he got shit added on for aggravated kidnapping. Now, a lot of the shit that he says kind of lines up with some of the cases, so he might have been responsible for some of them. Now, like I said, I don't know how much stock to put in what he says. He says he was working at Robert Abel's ranch, and he says when he first started working there, him and Robert Abel were like simpatico, man, because it's like we both had a dark side. They both kind of had really shitty views of women, that basically you could just use them and beat the shit out of them if you wanted to. Particularly prostitutes, they hated prostitutes, or at least he did, and said that Robert Abel did too. And it's like, yeah, we just go out and get prostitutes, and then we just like rape them and kill them because you're a prostitute, so we can just do whatever we want to. I mean, he basically said that outright. He said that Robert Abel had told him that Robert Abel had killed a prostitute. I don't know if that's true or not. Mark Stallings said that he had killed 2 prostitutes, and I think that he was actually either indicted or convicted of that. He kind of went and picked them up, and then he killed them, and he said that he buried some of the ranch. And like I said, he said that Robert Abel said that he'd killed a prostitute and buried the ranch. But when they searched the ranch, because like I said, Tim Miller was all up in there saying, Robert Abel's a serial killer, you gotta go search his land. And the police did search all his land, but they didn't find anything. So I don't know, even though Mark Stallings is obviously a shitty dude and did some shit, and he's confessed to some murders, I don't really know how much stock you can put in some of the shit that he said about Robert Abel or about some of the murders that were committed, because some of the prostitutes, they said they didn't know their real names. They didn't really have any crimes. Like one of the girls, he said her street name was Champagne. He didn't know what her real name was. And it's like, so I don't know.
That's a perfect hooker name when you think about it.
It is kind of the quintessential hooker name, Champagne. I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good name.
That's what I would like to be called.
I'm ready to do business. Where's my wallet? Well, I'm going to rest him back a second.
Yeah. He's going to go find the prostitute named Champagne. Well, it's really funny because I was watching something the other day. I don't even remember what it was, but somebody happened to mention offhand before I'd even started researching this dude. And somebody mentioned offhand that was like the perfect hooker name, or that was kind of the quintessential hooker name, was Champagne. And then I started reading about this guy, and he's like, oh my God, I wonder if he got... That's really weird. It was like a weird, like, synchronicity. I don't know. I never heard of a hooker named Champagne. I don't know a lot of hookers. I'm just saying that I never heard of one named Champagne. But apparently that's a really common... That's a really common sex worker alias, apparently. Who knew? I didn't know. But so I don't know... Like I said, for a long time, Tim Miller seemed really convinced that Robert Abel was maybe the killer, but then later he kind of reconsidered. He leaned more toward Clyde Hedrick. But Mark Stallings, the dude that worked for Robert Abel for a time, he for sure seemed like a scumbag. Whether he and Robert Abel were working together, hey, we're going to go out and pick up girls and kill them and bury them on the ranch, I don't know. As far as I know, I think that Robert Abel is dead now, obviously, because he got himself hit by a train. But so we can't ask him. I don't know if he was guilty or not. They didn't find anything when they searched his ranch. So what do I know? Now, I mentioned this earlier, but we'll go a little more into it now. So this was the Crystal Jean Baker case. She was 13. Now, this guy was actually convicted. So April of 2012, which was 16 years after Crystal Baker's body was found, Kevin Edison Smith got arrested, and he was eventually convicted of murdering her. Now, this guy, this is kind of interesting because he had been arrested on drug charges in 2009. Now, he didn't have a long rap sheet. It was just minor shit. It was just kind of like, you know, DUI, drug charges, and nothing violent, nothing like that. I think he'd kind of like tried to get away from a cop or something, like when they pulled him over. It wasn't anything that would imply that he was like a serial killer. But I don't know. It could be. So what ends up happening? So he gets arrested for a drug charge in Louisiana. Now, around the same time as that happened, somebody thought to take the dress that Crystal Jean Baker had been wearing when her body was found and test the DNA. Because as I said, you know, now DNA was much better. So they tested it and they found Kevin Smith's DNA on her dress. So they bring Smith in, and at first he denies it. Like, I don't know how that happened. Why would my DNA be on her dress? Blah, blah, blah. But after a while, he finally fessed up to it. Now, this was his story. He said that he had been drinking with his friends that day. It's the middle of the day. I'm not judging. So he'd been drinking with his friends like he usually did. He's like, oh, yeah, something we usually did was we usually would, like, sit around and we'd drink a lot, and then we'd go get a hooker. So he said that he was, like, super drunk, that he got in his car, and that he was driving along, and that he saw Crystal Jean Baker, who was fucking 13. He saw her walking down the road, like, to wherever she was going. He said he thought she was a prostitute and tried to get her to get in the car. Now, she was walking... She was trying to walk to her friend's house, which, like I said, was like 5 miles away. So I guess, like, he said, yeah, I'll give you a ride. And maybe she'd got in. I'm not really sure. But apparently she gets in the car, and then he starts harassing her, like, hey, how much do you charge? And he pulls over, like, behind a gas station, is like wanting a blowjob and shit. She's like, no, I just want a ride. I thought you were just giving me a ride. What the fuck? And she starts fighting him, as you would. He gets mad and then strangles her with a belt. He said that he didn't intend to kill her, but he just got mad because he was drunk and he thought she was a hooker, and he was upset because she wasn't giving it up. She was fucking 13, and he just saw her walking on the side of the road. Thought she was a prostitute.
Yeah. She
just needed a ride. He said he didn't mean to kill her. Jury didn't buy it. One thing that he said, this is one quote that he had, and this pissed me off a lot. I was just playing, and she went berserk. He was just playing. He was just trying to force himself on her sexually, just playing.
Yeah. And
she just went crazy. Why would she fight? I don't know. I had to kill her. What the fuck, man? What the fuck?
I saw his testimony, though. He was lying. That's not what
no shit.
That's not what really happened.
Yeah, the jury didn't buy it either.
No. He saw her and targeted her, and he's like, she's weak enough, I can take her. And the dude that you're talking about is not a specimen of a man. He's a fucking... It's just like I said before. It's always these fucking... Not even a beta. It's like a fucking omega male. You know what I mean? Bottom rung. You know what I mean? He's a bottom rung type male. Small, bad shape, not a good looking face. You can tell there's nothing to him in terms of fucking... social ability. It's just a bottom feeder. Bottom feeder. That's all it is.
And I kind of suspect the way that he sort of deflected and the way the situation went down, it would not shock me if he if they found out that he killed other people. Yeah. I do not think that was the first time that had happened.
And I don't think I'm being sizist about the small comment. I'm 5'6". I'm not a big guy. It's just that some dudes... It's a culmination of a lot of features that are unpopular. I mean, I'm a short guy. It never fucking was an obstacle for me. I guess it's just because how I played the hand I was dealt. Did you see me as some short guy when you first saw me?
You know what? It never occurred to me that you were short.
Short, yeah.
You said something about it like years later.
I never thought of myself as that.
I never thought of you like that.
I never thought of myself as like that either.
I don't know. You don't seem particularly short to me.
I had kind of a long history of competence where I was doing shit and getting shit done, so I never saw myself as ineffectual. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some guys do, though. and it starts to compound.
Well, they get so insecure about it, and and sometimes it's like all they can think about, and then they just have to like overcompensate, and they go way off in the other direction.
Yeah, well, I can say, I was overcompensating before I knew I was fucking short, though. That's not the deal. This guy's not overcompensating. He went down a fucking bad path. Mm-hmm. That's not overcompensation. You can't characterize it that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Fucking, I was overcompensating at 5. You know what I'm talking about? I was always trying to fucking grow, you know what I mean? And to get bigger in scope. You know what I mean? I'm looking at my babysitter going, man, I could take that. She looked just like Princess Leia. I love that woman. You know what I mean? Fucking, and I'm the human teddy bear. All these girls at the fucking, the little young teenage girls at the damn slumber party. That's right, love up on it, baby. You know? I'm in my jammies and shit. You know what I mean? So
did you have footy pajamas?
Little footy pajamas and shit, you know what I mean? And they're fucking burning.
Tom had little footy pajamas.
Back in the 70s.
Looking like Damian from the Omen.
Yeah, looked just like Damian from the Omen.
He did, actually.
And fucking, you know what I mean? And they're burning incense and listening to fucking Led Zeppelin, and you know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, that's right, baby. And, you know, to me, these 12, 13, 14-year-old girls, they were fucking, you know what I mean? Goddesses. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, it's just, I don't know, man. I can't explain it. It's just that some dudes are just destined to be fucking losers. And I think it's because they play in to the loser game, or they don't know how to expand on themselves. You know what I mean? They don't know how to improve what they have.
Well, I mean, we brought this up many times on the show. It's like, you know, to a large extent, sometimes, I mean, you can fix some things, obviously, but some things you're just kind of like stuck with. You know, your height is one of those things. That's kind of a hard thing to fix.
You can work with anything, though.
But, and that's what I was just going to say. It's like anything you're kind of stuck with or anything you get is, you can do shit with that. Just work it.
I've seen dudes that I would think that, if you look at them just physically, that the guy would be unsuccessful just with fucking beautiful fucking women and lots of friends and lots of success, you know what I mean? But you look at the guy and you think there wouldn't be anything to him until you talk to him. The motherfucker's just entertaining as shit. You know what I'm talking about? Fucking good character.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, okay, what was his name? Was his name Williams? The guy from fucking that little bitty short guy with the funny haircut. Was nothing special. He was in Phantom of the Paradise.
Paul Williams.
Paul Williams. That's what I was going to say. If you were to look at Paul Williams, you'd think that dude would be a loser. No, that dude had a shit ton of money, and in his day, in the 70s, I don't know how long he lived. Okay, I don't know if that was back in the day where dudes would OD all the time. Paul Williams was known for always being surrounded by beautiful fucking women. Celebrity women liked him, you know. He was Paul Williams. You know, but he had built a legend around himself. He didn't start off as the Paul Williams that you saw. It was something that he had earned.
Well, he was talented, and he had a good personality, and he could talk a good game.
Right.
It's like, you know, like you said, he was entertaining. People wanted to be around him.
Yeah.
You just have to be a person that people want to be around.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, that's...
And if you have the intelligence, you realize that pretty much anybody with a certain amount of intellect can become... You don't even need to be that intelligent. At least average intelligence. You can work with what you have.
Yeah.
That's my message to you motherfuckers.
Just don't, don't, try not to, like, get it, you know, all inured in, like, fucking self-pity.
Don't go negative.
Try not to do that. That's like a, I understand that, but that's like a bad
Even I can go negative. Jenny, you go, man, you get negative. Yeah, you got it.
I get like that too sometimes. Everyone does. It's it's human.
You can't, you know, fucking having my blood work done and looking at my fucking T levels. I said, oh, of course I'm so negative.
Yeah.
Fucking, you know what I mean? There's biology's involved too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Biochemistry. So, because I'm talking to people in the chat, in the chat, that's
because it's harder for some people. Like if your brain chemicals are like all fucking awry, then obviously it's going to be much harder for you.
Some people,
you know, it's easy for some people to just say, oh, cheer up or something like that if your fucking shit's all messed up.
There are some people that fucking are taking, you know what I mean, that need antidepressants. In my case, I fucking just did a fucking blood test and said, shit, my fucking testosterone is fucking super fucking low. Had I known it was that low, I'd gone on at 40. You know, and I know what that was. That started, and Jenny and I tracked it back. That was because my dad was dying. Because depression,
When you came back, because you were gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
When you came back from Mississippi from seeing your dad.
Yeah, I was different.
He didn't die. He's still alive.
Still alive, but.
But you said that, I mean, that affected you a lot.
Yeah.
I noticed that you changed a lot.
Yeah,
like,
I was
when
watching
you came
how
back
I got very negative.
Yeah.
And I felt like, well, shit, the hand of death's after me, too.
Because you saw it happening to your dad.
Right.
It was, like, so different than...
And that will fucking cause men to fucking stop testosterone production. And you will fucking get even more depressed. And this is... I should have fucking listened because all my VA shit, a lot of these guys are coming back out of combat. Army Rangers, fucking SF guys. They get out of service, fucking 20 years of service at fucking 26, 27, 28 years old. And their fucking testosterone is like 130. That's fucking dead. And they put them on fucking TRT and all of a sudden they feel a lot better. And then they don't get depressed and shit. You know what I mean? And they don't fucking kill themselves like they did back in the Vietnam era. It's because they know about that shit now.
Yeah.
You know? Success breeds success. Failure breeds more failure. And
yeah, you really get into kind of a spiral. It's sad, but you really can't get, like, you know, caught up in one particular way of thinking. Because
fucking when you're living the fucking high life, high energy life as a young man, you're way up here. And then you leave service and all that shit's gone and you just fall, you fucking crash. And that's why I was just talking to somebody in there about fucking Elvis. That's what happened to Elvis. Elvis lived way up here. He was living on a high. And then all of a sudden, you notice at 35, he started to fucking fall apart. And that was because around that time, he kind of went into semi-retirement. He went from being real famous to not being, you know, he was still famous, but he wasn't on stage all the time. And depression got him. He started
it wasn't like A-list anymore.
He wasn't A-list
I think
anymore.
that's bad because sometimes when you're real young and you have all of this adulation and accolades and stuff being like thrown your way. You know, and then you have all of that and then it's gone.
Yeah.
I feel like that might almost be worse than never
having it. Right. Because
you know what it's like. You know what it's like to be adored.
Yeah.
And to be famous and rich and everything like that. And then when it goes down just a little bit.
And then all of a sudden it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
And that's what Elvis was coming down off a huge fucking high. And he went into a fucking depression spiral and started taking drugs that he never recovered from. And they didn't know back then. Why did he gain all that weight? Why did he get all that depression? Why did he do that? Why did he kill himself with drugs? Today, at 35, they'd have fucking tested his blood and said, dude, you need TRT. They'd have boosted him. They'd have T-boosted him. He'd have lost a bunch of weight, felt a lot better. He'd have been out there fucking back on top.
Yeah.
He'd have done well. Yeah. Look at Stallone. We were talking about Stallone, too. As old as that fucker is, he's way up here, and he's going to live that way until he dies. You know?
Well, and another thing, too, is you just have to get... And, you know, I have to tell myself this, like, pretty much every day, too. But you just have to kind of... As shitty as some things that happen are, you really just kind of have to roll with the punches and be just kind of like, well... You know, is this really as bad as I think it is? Or it's like, you know, it'll pass. And it's like, you just kind of have to...
Well, women
keep on going. You know?
There are biological differences between men and women. Men and women are built differently. Women, their hormones get affected at menopause. Men, it can affect in their 30s, around 35, and that's when depression and negativity can kick in, because evolution did not really design us to live very long. Not men. You know, you just impregnate some people and then you die.
That fuck off.
Yeah, and it's not even that's not even a human
no
thing.
One needs you.
That's other males in other species do the same thing too. They don't live long. They're like drones. Okay, they fight, they fuck, and then they die. That's it. And because we're humans, we're living a lot longer than we should. And I'm saying this because guys in the fucking comment section were asking me questions about TRT and shit. When you get about 40, get your blood fucking serum levels tested. Check your test. Really, they should be doing that shit for free. Men's Health. It's just like going on the pill, like a woman going on the pill. It's just they're going to tweak your hormones and take you back to what you were when you were in an earlier state, like in your 20s or your 30s. You'll feel a lot better. If knowing what I know now at 51, I should have gone on that shit at 40, even though I was doing good at 40.
Yeah.
But knowing what I know now, I should have been bumped up at 40. It avoids so much damage. cardiovascular damage and all kinds of other stuff.
I mean, the thing, like, and Sophie pointed this out too. It's like women are kind of used to their hormones being like fucking all over the place.
Yeah, not men.
You know, we got like that fucking, you know, we got the monthly shit, and that kind of makes you. Yeah. I didn't really get crazy around that time period, but I was like horrible pain.
Yeah. No, men, and they'll all attest right there in the comment section. Men are used to being the same always, and as soon as you feel like you're not on the game anymore, you tend to crumple and die in geologic terms.
Yeah. Because
from the geologic point of view, we don't live long anyway. No, fucking go out there, get your blood fucking levels tested, see how much test is going on there. And the doctors at the clinics will know. You want to go to a testosterone clinic, or what do they call it, hormone replacement clinic. If you're in a good state, they'll have them. Doesn't cost much, anywhere between $100 to $200, depending on what they're offered. But you're gonna need blood tests every 4 months. Check your levels, and you'll feel a lot better. I mean, in past 2 years, I was feeling pretty bad, huh?
You seemed like you were.
Yeah. You
seemed real grumpy.
Grumpy, depressed, felt like life was over, like the hand of death was fucking chasing me, that I was going to die soon anyway. And a lot of guys feel that way, especially if you live a fucking very intense life in your youth. Guys that were always boring don't seem to fucking feel it as much.
Well, it's just like anything else. It's just kind of like extremes. If you live to extremes, once you don't have those extremes anymore, you're going to feel the loss a lot more than somebody that was just kind of more stable their whole life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's, a lot of people wondered what the hell Elvis had. And I'm going to tell you what Elvis had. Elvis had fucking low testosterone. He hit about 35, his career started to falter, and he went into a fucking spiral. Had you banged him up a little bit with some hormone therapy, he'd have been right back on his feet. And he would have lived a lot longer. And he would have stayed away from those painkillers. Because he thought he was sick. I know the feeling. I can now understand it. You're not sick. It's just that you're kind of going through a biological shutting down of your hormone system, your endocrine system. And fucking there's somebody in there. I just helped. I said, look, dude, take Clomid. And that'll kick that pituitary gland awake. You'll feel a lot better if you take a little bit of Clomid, which is a female fertility drug. And he went to Mexico and got some of that, and that motherfucker's bouncing off the goddamn walls. It's a good short-term solution, man, but you're old enough to get on TRT, bro. Get on that. You'll feel a lot better. You're going to die anyway. We only got 20, 30 years left anyway, Max. So you can't abuse that shit when you're young, but when you're old, go ahead and bring yourself up to a normal level.
Fuck it.
Fuck it. You got a lot of gas left in the tank.
Well, and like I said, too, I guess... I don't know. Shit bothers me, but shit doesn't bother me as much because I don't know. I always feel like I have something to do. I always have like a bunch of projects I got going. I always feel like I got shit I got to get done. So it's like even if I'm in a bad mood, I'm just kind of like, man, I got to do this, that, and the other thing. So I always kind of feel like a motivation to get shit done, even if I don't really feel like it.
They're telling me to go back to blonde. Jenny should go back to red. Well, Jenny's probably going to go back to red.
I've been thinking about it, yeah. I mean, even though I just bought a 3-pack of black dye, but you know, I might. I was thinking about it again the other day because it did look really nice.
They're saying, Tom, you don't have short man syndrome. No, I don't feel I have short man syndrome.
I don't think you do.
felt like a normal guy. I really didn't care about how.
Well, like I said, I mean, I'm only like 5'2", 5'3".
Yeah.
So, to me, it's like you never read as short.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me. It really didn't.
Neither didn't occur to me either.
I know, yeah, it's like, it really didn't. I'm not one of those people that's just kind of like, oh, I can understand, like, girls that are real tall, like, taller than average. I can understand them wanting to date a dude that's taller than they are. I get that. But I'm short, so it was never really an issue for me, because pretty much everybody's taller than me. So it was just not something that I ever thought about.
Tila said, Oprah asked Prince, did you ever feel bad about your height? And he said, no, well, only for basketball. Yeah, he can play, yeah. All right, they're just talking.
Gramther's Hammer said, Elvis once said, the key to happiness is to have something to do every day, someone to love, and something to look forward to.
Evidently, Williams is still alive.
Holy shit, really?
Yeah. Maniac says Paul Williams He said this. I wrote Rainbow Connection. Drop them panties.
Right?
Fucking that's exactly.
I mean, that should be sufficient.
Yeah.
That's a great fucking
Drop
song.
them fucking panties.
And if that was the only thing he did, that would be sufficient. But that's not the only thing he did. But that was pretty rad because I love that song. Yay, Muppet.
Sophie talking about her brain chemicals.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sophie's a cool chick. We need to have her back soon.
Yeah, you got to come visit again.
Yeah, she's got job interviews and all kinds of stuff.
Well, okay, don't mess that up.
And we did get that first job that we contracted after we got that back, Jenny.
Yeah, she's helping me. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's helping
Sophie
me work
back.
on my next Faithless Villain book.
Hernandez said, when my uncle got back from Vietnam, it told me it took him a couple of years to get back to normal. Yeah, exactly. And it probably took him longer than that to get back to normal. He just didn't tell you. Because that shit probably more like 5 years.
Well, because after a while, you don't want to burden other people with your shit. So it's just kind of like, well, I still feel like crap, but I'm not going to tell anybody about it because, they have a right to have a nice life. So it's like, why the hell should I be whining all the time? You know what I'm saying?
So if you're saying women ride hormone waves their entire adult lives.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So we're just kind of like used to it, I guess.
Right. Men aren't really used to
We're
that.
more used to it. It's like, oh, here's this shit again. Every fucking 4 weeks.
Well, men aren't educated about our hormone levels. If you want to know about that shit, you ask fucking professional bodybuilders. They know everything about that shit.
Well, and I think
they're abusing it.
The problem too is that this is another thing where I feel like a lot of dudes are kind of grossed out by women talking about their periods or their hormonal cycles. And that's like damaging to men as well because it's like, look, you guys have hormones too. Yeah. And you might be able to, get some insight into your own shit by listening to women talk about their shit because it's the same problem. You know what I'm saying? That's why I always used to make like period jokes and shit about tampons and stuff because I know how much that grosses dudes out and that makes me laugh. Stop
propaganda as it says, Tom, what is this Clomid? If you're feeling sick, I'm not a doctor. I cannot give medical advice. I can't prescribe shit to people. Clomid is a fertility drug. That's what it's sold for women, to get them to ovulate. What it does is it stimulates the pituitary gland in the brain, and then that causes a stimulation through the entire endocrine system of a woman, and that includes ovulation. If you give it to a man, it also stimulates the endocrine system, including sperm production, testosterone production. Then we're getting way off the fucking subject, dude. We're talking about cum, all right?
I mean, I was almost done.
Yeah, we're almost done? Okay. We got time. Bodybuilders, when they come off of steroid cycles, their testosterone production is shut down because they've been on steroids. Steroids is a better version of testosterone. It's like the testosterone molecule, but even better. And when you start taking steroids, your body's natural testosterone production shuts down because your nuts are like, why do I need to make testosterone? Look what I got. I got all this.
If your nuts could talk, that's what
they're
be
going.
saying.
Why make?
There's two of them with little nuts with little faces on them. That's what I was imagining.
Why the fuck do I have to work? Why do I have to work?
We're gonna knock off work for the day. Yes, we are. Okay.
I make this pussy ass little testosterone molecules. That's nothing compared to this shit that's in the system. I'm gonna shut down.
I'm taking the day off.
So after a while,
indefinitely.
After a while, some of those dudes' nuts get so small they damn near vanish. They're just a damn scrotum hanging there. No balls in them. Well,
nothing sadder than a ballless scrotum.
Some of those dudes have been on cycle for a long, long fucking time. So they come off all those drugs, and all of a sudden there's no testosterone. They feel like fucking shit, and then they start losing everything that they gained during that cycle and all that working out. They start losing muscle mass because testosterone helps you maintain muscle mass. It's an anabolic agent that causes you to fucking heal and to grow. That's what it does. It's like very similar to human growth hormone, although they work together. And a man's level is 10 times that as a woman. Women heal using other hormones. Anyway, what they'll do is you come off that fucking steroid cycle and you got to get your own natural production going. So they take Clomid. They'll take that for a while, and it'll bang on the pituitary gland to get them to start making normal hormones again. Now, are those normal hormones levels enough to maintain a motherfucker who's 20 pounds, 20, 30 pounds over his genetic potential in muscle? Hell no. He's going to lose all that shit eventually. No. First of all, do not equate professional bodybuilding with anything that I've said before about health and longevity. Those dudes are in a totally different category. Those are like biological drag racers. They're not healthy. And they tend not to live that long. Some of them can live long, but they tend not to. All depending on what they've done and what era they came from. I'm not anti-steroids. If you get injured, take steroids. It'll help you heal. Steroid abuse to get giant like that, especially at a young age, that's going to affect your lifespan. Now, in your last 20 or 30 years of life, mild doses of things like anabolic steroids, will that help you? Mild doses, it could. In Jack LaLanne's case, it did. He lived into his 90s. But he was not a gigantic bodybuilder. He was a regular-sized guy. You're just trying to fool the body into pretending that it's younger than it is. And testosterone treatment, hormone treatments, and certain anabolic steroids can extend life if used properly. But I'm not a doctor. Don't take my advice. If you don't feel good, go to a fucking hormone replacement clinic and get your blood test done and see what your blood results are. See if you're deficient in anything. And they can bring you up to a normal level. A lot of bodybuilders that are at what's called a super physiological level. In other words, they have the fucking hormone level of fucking 420-year-olds. That's what their test level is sometimes. Don't do that. Not long term. Kill you. Fuck up your heart. Okay, that's all I gotta say.
I just had one more thing that I wanted to get to because I said that I talked about it earlier and I said I was going to talk a little bit more about it later. This is more about the Shelley Sykes case, that 19-year-old who was taken out of her car. So, 1987, this dude who was 30, his name was John Robert King, he calls up the police in El Paso, Texas, and he says he confessed that in 1986, he and his friend, 33-year-old Gerald Peter Zwarst, attacked Shelley Sykes while she was in her car, and subsequently raped and strangled her. Now, as I said, this was the case where the car was found abandoned and there was blood inside it and a footprint next to it. The blood that was found in Shelley's car was actually not Shelley's blood. It was actually Robert King's blood. He had cut his arm punching open her window so he could drag her out of the car, and he had kind of sprayed blood on the inside of the car. Now, Gerald Zwarst told the cops that he hid the body in one of the fields nearby, so where some of the other bodies were found. So they asked both the dudes, to find the body, to they kind of gave him a deal. They're like, look, we'll give you a lesser sentence if you help us find where the body is. What ended up happening was that when they were questioning them, these two assholes were basically one of them blamed the other one. That guy was driving. He was the one that drug her out of the car. The other one said the same thing about the other guy. So they were just accusing each other. No, he did it. No, he did it. It was that kind of thing. They both said, oh, we were really drunk and high that night. We don't really remember what we did. Maybe Shelley was still alive when we buried her. Maybe I hit her with the shovel, while she was in the fucking grave. It was shit like that. But I was too high. I don't really remember. It was that kind of shit. Now, they actually, the two of them went on trial. As I said, at the time, they never found the body. So they put them on trial for aggravated kidnapping, which was kind of the worst charge that they could do, without a body. They both got life imprisonment in 1998. And since they had confessed to that one, they also kind of looked into him for some of the other Texas killing fields murders, but they said pretty much they hadn't done any of the other ones. They couldn't find any physical evidence tying them to any of the other ones either. Robert King actually died in jail in October of 2015, natural causes. I believe Gerald Zwarst is still alive. He's still in jail. He tried to go for parole in 2017, but was denied. So as far as I know, he's still in there, although the other one is dead. As I mentioned earlier, there was a film adaptation, sort of, that came out in 2011. Sam Worthington is in it. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is in it. what's that little girl's name? Chloe Grace Moretz. Yeah, little girl. She's a woman, but she was little in this one. She's in it too, and it's called Texas Killing Fields. It's on Tubi or it's on Pluto TV if you want to watch it for free. It's a good movie, but it's not. It's a fictionalization. It's kind of like they took the idea of the place and sort of like made some sort of similar cases into a movie. They didn't use any of the real victims' names. They didn't do anything like that. They just kind of made a narrative out of, and some people got saved, which didn't really happen. So a lot of the shit in there. So if you're watching it, don't watch it thinking that's anything to do with the actual case, because it's not. It's a fictionalized case. But it's a good movie, though, if you want to watch it. I watched it yesterday on Tubi. And I guess that's pretty much all about the Texas Killing Fields case. So if you want to talk about some other shit, we can do that now, because I got through all my notes.
Well, let me answer some questions that were already asked.
Okay, there we go.
Hernandez wants to ask me where did fucking bubble gut come from? All right, let me explain this to some of the audience. In bodybuilding, we got some dudes in there, and they're asking me about fucking bodybuilding and fucking exogenous hormones and weird shit like that. They want to know what's what. There was something back in the 90s that appeared. It's very famous today. It's called they called it bubble gut. Some of these bodybuilders looked they were huge as shit, and they had these weird round fucking guts that would pop out like they were pregnant. The true name for that is Palumboism. It was named after a bodybuilder named fucking Dave Palumbo.
We talked about him on the bodybuilding show.
He's a funny guy, and just talking about Palumboism in front of Dave Palumbo makes him fucking pissed off as shit. Nobody knows what caused fucking bubble gut, really.
I suspect that it's alien impregnation.
Yeah. No. Those dudes in that era were taking a huge stack of different kind of drugs to try to get as big as possible. The 90s and the early 2000s was an insane time in fucking bodybuilding where aesthetics didn't matter. Aesthetics means what it looks like. It didn't matter to the judges. It was only how fucking big and how fucking lean the dude was. They didn't care. It could even look like shit, and that guy would still win. All right? So there's no telling what caused that. It was something having to do with the drugs they were taking. Genetics may have been a factor, because they didn't all look that way. Just some of them did. But it's a good thing that they're getting away from that kind of bodybuilding. The best bodybuilding of all times was the golden era. That was the 70s. During, Lou Ferrigno, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Those dudes would be considered small today. But they had great aesthetics. They looked good. All right? And that's really what bodybuilding really should be. It's about looking good. There's also another category called male's fitness, which is not quite that big, and they wear little fucking shorts. Don't make too much out of this shit. They're male beauty pageants. That's all they are. It's not a sport.
Well, yeah,
it's all it is. Okay. Now I got Xanada, another guy saying I would never take any exogenous. Dude, bitch, you're fucking 20. Of course you're not going to take any exogenous hormones or steroids or anything. And you don't work out anyway, fucking Xanada. I've fucking seen your build. You're a twig, man. You're a little bit skinny guy, all right? And fucking, bitch, you need to get in the goddamn gym, all right? And lift. Get a little bit of size on you. Because you look like you watch television for a living, all right? You're skinny. You're too fucking skinny, all right? At least you're not fat. You're skinny, though, all right? He goes, I don't want to even live to 60. Bitch, you don't know what you're fucking talking about, because when you get to 40, you still feel fucking young. Me and her were doing shit at 40 that people at 20 couldn't do. And
I'm 48, and I still don't feel like an old person.
I'm 51, she's 48. Fucking, we would outperform most of you motherfuckers at the club.
Well, we can outdrink most
out
of them,
drink,
for sure.
out fuck, out charm. Fucking everybody fucking knows us when we go to the fucking club.
Well, hey, Book.
What's up? It's not. The idea is you should be good looking for as long as you can until you die. I'm trying to look good at 70. Now a lot of these people, you look at Sly's body. We're talking about Sylvester Stallone's body looks fucking great. He's pushing 70. Okay. His face is fucked up. But you have to understand that he was an experiment from another era. He was taking anabolic...
He's an experiment.
Yeah. All this shit's experimental.
We'll make him bigger, stronger,
Yeah, it's faster. Right. They didn't quite know what they were doing back then. He's a great guy, very talented. I like Sly. He's real intelligent. He's a very good actor. He's very talented. He knows what a good story is. He can write. All right. He's got a lot of friends. I really respect the dude. Back around Rambo 3, around that time, he started training with the Golden Era guys. All right, fucking Lou Ferrigno, it was Arnold's friend, the dude from Conan 1. What was his name? The little Italian guy.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his name.
What his name is. He was Sylvester Stallone's workout partner and trainer. Sylvester Stallone probably got on one of the earlier versions of anabolic steroids, which would have Anavar, which is pretty gentle by today's standards. But he took that for a long time. Okay? You can't... It's not really good to take large amounts of anabolic steroids from an early age. You're only going to be able to run that for so long. By the time you're 50 or 60, you're going to start developing certain problems. So what Sly did is he got off a lot of those anabolics and he went to HGH, which would be human growth hormone. You can work out and you can get big on human growth hormone. But it distorts your face. So what he did was he fucking had little nips and tucks here to change his face, to try to put his face back. Okay? He's looking a lot better than he did. He's in good health, very good health. If it's done right, even though he abused it, if it's done right, you can live a long time, even though he kind of abused it. A good female equivalence would be, there's a porn star named Ryan Connor. She was taking HGH. She's my age. She looks fucking fantastic. She had to get a nose job because her nose got pretty fucking big. I was showing it to Sophie, because Sophie's into fitness too. I showed it to Sophie. I said, look at her nose changed. He says, yeah, it's that HGH. But she got nice big legs, nice big booty. Her daughter is a porn star, too. But that's some weird shit when you think about it.
It is kind of weird.
That's some weird shit, yeah. Walking in mom's footsteps and shit. But look at Ryan Connors. I think she's 50, 51 years old. She claims, I think, 51. She might be a little bit older because I've remember her my whole life. She was in porn when I was a teenager. So she's got to be older than that. But she looks great. These things can be used, but they have to be used in reasonable amounts, and you want to do this shit in middle age. Towards the end. Because if they're abused early on in the early part of your life, there's not going to be any fucking gas left in your tank by the time you're 50 or 60. You're not going to be able to do anything.
Well, it's just kind of like smoking.
Smoking.
I feel like if you start smoking when you're a teenager and you smoke like for decades, then yeah, you'll get lung cancer.
You're gonna get lung cancer.
If you don't smoke in this, and then you kind of start later, then it's probably okay.
If you started smoking,
it's still not good. But
if you started smoking at 60, it's not gonna make a big smoke up.
No.
Smoke up. It's not gonna make a bit of fucking difference.
Because it takes a long time. It's bad for you, but it takes a long time to take an effect.
Right. So when done correctly, some people go, oh, those antibiotics. Oh, I would never do antibiotics. Yeah, you would. Yes, you fucking would do it. If you're 50 years old, falling to shit, and you're gonna fucking look like an old fucking person, like fucking within 3 or 4 years,
your perspective
you're gonna go,
changes.
here you go, fucking take this now, go work out. You'll feel a lot better. You'll look a lot better. And you go, God damn, boom! I came out of that goddamn machine Captain America came out of. What do you have to lose? You only got 20 years of life left.
Well, like I said,
you might as well go out like a sexy motherfucker.
As long as you didn't fuck your shit up when you were young, you can get away with a lot.
You can get away with a lot.
Saving it till later.
Yeah.
Sophie said she can't believe she'll be 30 this year. Feels like I wasted the most fun years.
You did.
No.
You did, bitch.
No.
That's up in Michigan.
I've heard some people can turn things around later.
Yeah,
no, it's like I feel like I didn't really get my shit together till I was about
40.
30. Till I was about 38.
30, yeah.
38.
Yeah, you really don't understand what you're dealing with until you're coming up.
That's when I got my shit together. I was like, this is who I am. This is kind of like, so don't feel like, if you're like late 20s or 30s, like don't feel like, oh, I'm so old and I wasted everything. It's really not.
Yeah,
like
women,
that.
You're just not hormonally set up to be a reasonable person when you're in your fucking teens, 20s, 30s, you just...
Nobody is.
Yeah.
Nobody wants teens or 20-year-old anybody running anything.
Okay, let's see if there's any questions about the fucking... Let's see if there's any more questions.
Shit, man.
Talking about the case.
Because it's like I remember... although I will say, I'm a bad example, I guess, because I didn't go too fucking crazy in my teens or 20s or anything like that. I didn't do a bunch of stupid shit or anything. But most people do stupid shit.
Tina says diet, exercise, and fucking natural remedies. Partly correct. Diet, exercise, natural remedies? No. No, won't. That'll only take you so far.
Yeah, Amanda Smith said the same thing. I agree. My mid-30s is when I actually got my stuff together.
Right.
So, yeah, anybody that's just in their 20s or something, don't worry about it. Everybody's fucked up. Everybody's confused at that age. When you get into your mid to late 30s, you'll start to, like, sort shit out. Yeah. I didn't sort shit out until I was 38, at least.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
People talking about, I'm 56, you feel young. You always feel young if your health is good. If your health is good, go ahead and fuck around when you're in your fucking
Well, a lot of it's
half.
like mental attitude too.
Yeah.
It's like because I kind of feel like part of the reason why I don't feel like an old person is because I mentally don't feel like an old person. You know what I mean? I don't have an attitude of an old person. Because it's weird. Sometimes I see people like walking around. And I'm like, man, look at that old fart over there, or whatever. And then I feel like they're probably the same age as me. But I still think of them as an old person because they seem like an old person to me, just because of their body language or because of shit they're talking about or something like that. So, I don't know. It's like a really weird. I don't know if everybody goes through the same shit. I don't know. Maybe it's a generational thing because we were kind of like the first generation, after the boomers, Generation X. And we were kind of the first ones. We were all into the punk rock, and we were all into that kind of shit. And we were the first ones that were just kind of like, man, fuck this. We don't want all this. We don't want all this shit.
Right.
And we don't want to be old people. We don't want to be like that. And so, I definitely feel like it has. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how people our age once we're in our 70s and 80s, like once we're all in the old folks' home. With all our tattoos and wearing fucking... We'll be 80 and, like, wearing fucking social distortion shirts and shit like that.
Yeah.
It's like, that always kind of, like, made me laugh, like, thinking that.
Stop propaganda, says Tom. I wish life was so easy to control. I broke my neck in a car accident back in 2001. Because of this bone graft that's taken from my backbone to repair the neck, my hip is shot and I can barely walk. Yeah, fucking damage... Physical damage from accidents. I mean, that's a totally different game. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about people who are normally or otherwise healthy, just aging. It's much easier to try to protect the health you have than to lose your health and try to regain it. That's a different challenge. That's something you're gonna have to research on your own. Fucking maybe something about stem cell infusions and shit, or I don't know. I'd have to see you. I'm not a doctor. You gotta find.
Ryan Schwartz says, "Don't have kids. It keeps you young." Yeah,
maybe.
Not to shit on people that have kids, but I kind of think there might be something to that, because we were kind of talking about this yesterday. I was just kind of like, I think I decided when I was a teenager, I'm not real. That's not really something I want to do, and my mom even told, because my mom loved kids. She had 4 of them. I have 3 siblings, and she was just like, "Oh, you'll change your mind when you get older." Never happened.
I just got caught up in
it. Never happened.
Yeah, I never had the chance because I was always caught up in something else that I was doing for some kind of fucking stupid ass government agency or something.
It's like I thought about it a couple times, and then I thought about it for like a few minutes, and I'd be like, "Nah, not for me." I don't know. I'm just not. I don't know. I'm just not like what maybe that's because like when we got Pookie and it's like she's our kid. But in a lot of ways, she's a lot better than a human child.
Yeah, we don't have to talk to it.
Well, we don't have to pay for her to go to college.
You got to understand something. And she
doesn't come to be a teenager, and she's like, I'm gonna go out and get high with my friends, and it's like like I said, you don't have to pay for her to go to college. She just like stays cute and adorable her whole entire life. I can talk to her. She doesn't like sass me back.
Yeah.
You can kind of leave her to her own devices as long as you kind of watch out for her, because sometimes she might like do some crazy shit. She's good though. She doesn't tear up shit in the house too much. You know what I mean? She's better than a human kid. But you know, like I said, I do think that having kids, for some people, does kind of like suck out your life force. Just saying.
Okay, so Justin says, you ain't out drinking me, Tom, I challenge. No, I don't know, man. Fucking, it's hard to tell how much we've been drinking.
Well, this is my second one, and you said you made him a little bit weaker, and I feel buzzed, but not that drunk.
It's still early too, and we got movies and shit to watch.
Yeah,
it's
I think
Saturday.
it's only 8:15.
Yeah, do you guys have any questions about the case or any other kind of questions? You can go ahead and drop them in the comment section.
Michael Schaefer says, "No offense, Jenny wouldn't be a good parent." I probably wouldn't.
You said Tom would probably be a good dad. Hell
you
yeah,
probably would. You probably would. I think I'd be a horrible parent. I think I would be like, it sucks because I feel like I wouldn't want to be, but I feel like I'd be super, super overprotective, and then I would resent myself for being overprotective. You know what I'm saying? I kind of feel like that's what would probably happen.
I don't know what would happen.
Sophie says, I don't mind kids, but I hate babies.
Terry said, thanks for a great show, guys.
Yeah, kids kind of suck. But, you know.
All right, well, if there's no more questions, we should go ahead and just shut it down.
See, we didn't do too bad.
No.
3 hours and 24 minutes. And
still a long show.
The stream didn't drop the whole entire time.
I made sure not to talk at all.
You made sure not to talk at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, you went off on a couple tangents, but nothing too egregious.
Yeah.
So I was still able to like keep to my
T's
timeline.
asked if we would adopt. No, T, we wouldn't. It's too late in life.
I'm too old.
Too old for that shit.
I'm too tired.
Yeah, just in my experience,
just having kitties is enough.
I was married before, but I broke up with my wife about a year and a half into it. Okay, and I got married fucking at around 29 or so. That's really the time for a man to fucking have kids. Late 20s, early 30s. I mean, we can do it forever. It's just that your patience and your energy level and your priorities change as you get older. You're kind of designed to have kids in your 20s. That's the best time to have it.
Well, when you have the energy.
You have a lot of energy and you're young, and then you can grow up with the kids. All right. Now it's time to have a kid. I'd be dead by the time the damn kid was a fucking teenager, probably. And then that's like fucking over the kid, because now they're like, shit, the motherfucker's not around to help me. I'm locked up. Fucking bail me out. God damn it. That ain't okay. You know what I mean? So, and fucking... Shit, man, fucking, I put my parents to the fucking ringer as I was growing up. So,
I didn't.
All they did is constantly worried that I'd get killed doing this and that and fucking going over here and enjoying. So, I'm too old for that shit, because I know that my genome, if I were to spawn out a creation, would be fucking wild. It would be fucking wild. It would put me through the ringer.
Yeah, I don't know if I.
Yeah. And if it was a girl, it'd be even worse. I'd be giving birth to some kind of fucking porn star fucking goddess. Probably would be. Porn star goddess. Fucking. I'm like, no, you have to understand something. You can't sell pussy. That's against the rules. You can't sell pussy. Probably would be like.
I mean, you can if that's what you choose to do.
She's up at Harvard and Yale selling pussy. Yeah, it'd be like that.
But that's the thing. It's like, in principle, it's a good idea. But when it's your daughter, you don't want them doing that.
Yeah, it'd be a total psychopath.
Scott asked me if we had reviewed Black Mountainside. We haven't. I actually started watching it and then I never finished it, but it's like, I really want to finish watching it because it seemed like really, really good. I just didn't get around to like finishing it. But so we will like review it one of these days, I promise. Yeah. But we haven't reviewed it so far. My biggest fear was that I would have a kid and it would turn out the complete opposite to me.
Yeah.
And that
it would be unintellectual, be dumb as shit.
Yeah, it would just be like some dumb, like super religious, like fucking weirdo, and I would just be like, "Whose fucking child are you?" Your kid
would be like the Christina Applegate character from Married with Children. It'd be like that. That's a total opposite.
Kinda, or actually, I don't know. I kind of imagined somebody that was like kind of fucking I don't know. Like
Sophie's saying it's a great show. Says the right amount of sidetracks and drinks and everything and it was 3.5 hours. So the timing's perfect. Okay, this is how the show should be, if you ask me. In terms of time, Kanabot's Lana's here. That's another shirt, dude. If I spawn a creation,
it'd be
a sex goddess. That's what would happen if it was, dude. Con. We understand the genome, okay? Fucking, I've seen the my female ancestors, all right, on my side of the family. They're fucking dangerous, man. That's what they are. Fucking psychopathic sex goddesses. That's what they fucking were. When you saw them when they're young, bombshells. They're like, oh man, I ain't gonna get into it. I got pictures to prove the shit that I'm saying. But they look good and they're
everyone's
fucking,
like,
yeah, my aunts and my mom and everything, when they were young, they all looked good. They were all fucking crazy. All of them were fucking crazy. She can attest, they're fucking crazy.
oh yeah.
Yeah, they're fucking great.
And I'm not one of those, but bitches be crazy. But it's like,
No,
women are crazy. That's just
fucking
something that
crazy.
dudes tell to like shut women up.
Fucking
But some women are indeed crazy, and your female
Yeah,
relatives are
on my side of the family, they're all fucking crazy. And that's what in a modern society, that's what they would end up being.
Which I kind of feel like maybe that's why. I don't know. Like I feel like maybe that's why you were kind of surprised that I was normal, because you were so used to.
I was used to
crazy chicks.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like what you were. That's what you were around all the time.
Yeah, fucking crazy. Well, it was California too.
I mean, I don't
crazy.
think I'm crazy. Although I feel like crazy people, that's the first thing they say is that they're not crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm crazy though.
Okay.
Not largely. Well, I don't know. In some ways, maybe. Lucy says, I'm a newbie. Hey, welcome. Have you reviewed the classic Trick or Treat?
Yes, we got a review.
The anthology one with Sam? Yes, we have. That's one of our movie retrospectives. I can't believe I can't remember how long ago we did that. Maybe, I feel like we did it not this past Halloween, but maybe the one before that, 2018.
Yeah.
I don't know. So it was a while back. If you're talking about the one from the 80s, about the hair metal band that was called Trick or Treat, no. But I have seen it. And it was terrible, but fun. It was, yeah. We haven't done that one, but we've done the anthology one.
Tom, did you ever have yellow fever in Japan? No, I never went to Japan other than like a couple of days. I was stationed in Korea.
Yeah.
I know what he's talking about.
Yeah, well, everybody.
That kind of yellow fever.
Yeah, not the real disease kind.
No.
The other kind.
No, it's just that you get stationed to a place like Korea, man does what he does.
Ladies are ladies.
Yeah,
no
man does what
where
he
they're
does.
from.
That's the deal. You know what I mean? And
the dick doesn't discriminate.
well, no, it does. It does. It discriminates. It's just that it's not. Ethnic group and race may not be a factor. It's more about the individual woman. It's more about the appeal of it.
That's very cool of you, Tom.
Well, of course. Well, it's all on a case-by-case basis.
Well, that's kind of how we should approach everything.
Right. Now,
at all times.
Being in the service when you go to Korea, the professional trade is also a factor.
Sure.
Because, when they release you from, where I was at Camp Greaves, we were on the DMZ. So I only got 24-hour pass a month. We were kind of like a maximum security prison. So when you go back to like Seoul or fucking Tongdushan, you're not gonna have a girlfriend as you know it, dude. You're gonna go to the fucking club.
Hookers!
These are hooker clubs, yeah. And you had a whole army of young American men going to help the South Koreans. And then you got a whole army of South Korean girls going to help the fucking American men get the job done. This was a South Korean government effort to entertain young American men overseas and to get as much of their money as possible out of the fucking American pocket into the South Korean economy. Because that's American taxpayer funds paying you. And they want some of that money. And they know those girls are going to spend that money back in their economy. They know exactly what they're doing. They teach them English. Back in that era, they taught them English. They trained them up in American culture and turned them into dancers. They got them dressed up in the damn cowgirl outfits with the fucking 6-shooters and the cowboy hats and the fringe. And they got some of them dressed up like little fucking rap star girls fucking on it. And they know the deal and you know the deal, and there's not a big difference between between the two of you. You're all the same age. Everybody looks good. It's good looking, fit American guys in their 20s and good looking Korean girls in their 20s. Some of them older in their 40s, but you couldn't tell until it was too late. It didn't matter though.
Until it was too late.
It didn't matter.
God damn it!
I was like,
"You're an old bag."
How old are you? And she goes, I'm 45, and I'm like, no, that'll work.
Whatever.
You know, Korean women, they age well. They age very well. And but no, they had all kinds of shit. It was fun. It was fun, and it wasn't serious, and it did not have that seedy quality to it like you would think that it would.
Well, because it's a lot more acceptable, I feel like.
It was part of their culture, and it was also part of the economy, and it was part of the, in those days, it was part of the army system. The American medics went in, and everybody had licenses. It was like something out of Europe, where it was all...
See, I think that's a much better situation.
Yeah.
Because no one's necessarily being exploited.
No.
It's like everyone kind of knows what the deal is.
Yeah.
Everyone is being tested. Everyone's safe. It's like it's a, it's a controlled environment.
And it wasn't really a mind fuck. There's not really any emotion involved in it. It's not really the same as like having sex with a regular woman. It's not. It's like screwing the waitress. You know what I mean? It's not really that personal.
Yeah.
It's like sport, but it's like sport. Yeah. It's like Chinese Disneyland.
Welcome to Wide World of Sports.
Yeah, in the club, behind the club is a bunch of apartments that they all live in. It's all connected. And you go into their rooms, man, and I swear to God, they got the colored lights, and it looks like Chinese Disneyland. They got all these fucking dragons and fucking Chinese looking... It's Korean, but in your mind, it looks like Chinese stuff. Like Chinese looking furniture and fucking gigantic fucking beds and music and shit. You're like, yeah, all right. You know what I mean? It's just entertainment.
Well, yeah, it's all geared toward your entertainment, like you said.
Yeah, it's all entertainment. Well, they're trying to keep you away from Korean civilians.
Sure.
They don't want you fucking up normal, calm lifestyle of Korean civilian families. They don't want you in there because you will fuck shit up. Of course you'll fuck it up.
Yeah.
They have a very small... The Korean society had a very kind of like small Overton window of acceptability, and there was nothing acceptable about American GIs. No, nothing.
They're like, you guys are going to wreck all the shit.
Or wreck all the shit. Just showing up adds this too much stink. And they're going to have to leave. Just too much goddamn stink. Try to go into the fucking restaurant, and they go, oh, no. Like, what? No. They just say no. What, are you not going to let me? Was she not going to let me in the restaurant? No.
Get out.
No. Yeah, no white. Oh, no white. Okay.
What, they think that you were going to poop in your hands and throw it at the wall or something?
No, it's because they're just fucking Korean people in there, and they don't want to see no fucking white people coming in there, man. Make them so they lose their appetite or something, you know what I mean? Scaring them too much. They're very shy people. Very shy people.
It's like you're making us lose our appetite.
And then you go, what's funny is that you go to the fucking club with your boy, right? And he might be black. You try to go in, they go, no. And they separate you from him. And they say, you go to that club. Oh, that's how we're playing. That's how we're playing.
See how you guys
this club's for whites only, and that one's for the blacks. Ain't that some shit?
That is some shit.
Yeah.
Not good shit.
Well, that's just how they're going to fucking play. Everybody had to be separated. Yeah.
Everybody has fun in their separate
It was segregation. Yeah. No. He can't come in. You can come in, but he can't come in. Yeah. Crazy. And what are you going to do? Protest? This is their country.
Yeah, I mean...
And they will lock your ass up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Stop Prop. When is the next loot drop? I know we really need to do that. We need to do some shirts. We need to design some new shirts. Maybe we can do that this week, and we'll come.
Tina says, "Are they shy? Or are they racist? They're racist. I'm just being polite to them. Korea, China, and Japan are a fucking very homogeneous societies. Koreans, the Japanese, and the Chinese hate each other. They're racist against each other. They do not like... Well, okay, I gotta put it this way. They don't like black people at all. They'll tolerate white people. They do not differentiate between Latinos and white. To them, that's just more white people. They're fucking highly controlled. Now, what I'm telling you, this is from the 90s. I don't know how much has changed. Korea in 1990, 91, around that time, was kind of like going back to 1935. That's what it was like. And what was funny is that some of the Korean women didn't play any of this shit, and they might like Western guys more than their own, and they would fucking complain about Korean guys, that they were backwards. So it was just a weird time. I don't know if it's still like that, but probably is. Probably.
I mean, that was a long time ago, but I haven't been there, so I don't know.
It's probably still kind of like that. Yeah. It's not our country, so you can't tell them how to think. If they don't like you, they don't like you. What are you going to do? Beat their ass because they don't like you? That's going to make them like you? No. So there's nothing you can do.
Well, that's usually not the best way to get people to like you. Just a pro tip. You don't like me, I'm going to kick your ass until you do like me.
Yeah. Yeah, see what's going on about lighter blood and skin bleaching? Yeah, but that's only that's only up to a certain point. In Korea, Koreans were the superior race. They just are. That's how they were, in their mind, Koreans were better. Any kind of mixed relationship, they weren't into that. Out of the foreigners, they kind of had this fucking weird kind of fetishism of white people. They did fetishize white people, but they still thought they were better than you. It was just like a fetishization of white people. But no, black people were like, I wouldn't say that they didn't think black people were bad. They just thought black people were lower than everybody else, which that's something that you kind of have to what the fuck? That's like going back to, like I said, that's some racist shit, man.
Yeah, a little bit.
The Western society is a society that is not a top-down society. It's a network of people that roughly consider themselves to be the same. They might be a little bit higher or lower depending on their income or their abilities or their charisma. But that's mostly has to do with their personality and who they are personally. You know what I mean? Not so much by their race. All right. The entire East is a hierarchy. It's about who is above who and who is below who. And they have it's just something about the way their entire civilizations are fucking organized. It has to do with the God Emperor being on top, and he's Chinese or Korean or Japan, going back to Imperial Japan. And then the royal families, and then the high business families and oligarchs, and then this. And so everything is a top-down hierarchy. That's actually kind of like the norm. That's the norm of the world. Most of the world's like that. But so is the animal kingdom. Prey and predator and who is above who. America and the West with this fucking more amorphous network of people side by side trying to work shit out and do things together like a rock group. That's very Western and very American. That's not normal for the rest of the world. In some countries that's coming, but that's not their heritage. And that's just the reality, I kind of understand it. Do I agree with it? No. But I understand why it's like that. It's just part of their evolution.
Yeah. Stomp Prop told me to read the rest of the message because he gave us a super chat. Then he says, when is the next loot drop, guys? At which point I was just kind of like, oh, we should make some more t-shirts. But he says, make it a book, Jenny, next time. So there you go. Maybe we should send some books out. We haven't done that in a little while. I don't know. I'll think about that. I'm still working on new ones, so we'll see how it goes. If I had got the fucking cookbook done, which I've been working on, I worked on it all day yesterday actually, and a little bit today. We could send those out if you guys would wait a little bit longer, because it is kind of almost done. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Where was I? Koreans like Americans who have light hair, because in their minds that's what Americans should be. Has anybody ever noticed that Jenny has more ink than Tom? I do, actually. Yeah, I've got this. I got this. And I got this. And this one is actually a cover-up of another one, because I used to have like a smaller one here. And then this sleeve was like a cover-up. I want more, but I actually... You know what I wanted? I wanted a big back piece based on Edgar Allan Poe's Masque of the Red Death. But I just haven't been able to afford it. But I had it kind of planned out and sort of sketched. And I don't know. Maybe someday I'll get it. Where is Pookie tonight? She was in here just a second ago. Yeah. She was running around and kind of looking at me like, who?
No, Tila, she asked me to show up. Tila says the United States is a caste society, too. Well, no, not really.
Well, it is, but to a lesser extent.
A lot lesser.
To a lesser extent.
You can rise or fall to your level depending on... And your fucking... Your race doesn't have much to do with it. All you gotta do is just go to some of these fucking places like out in Appalachia, and you'll see white people poorer than just anybody. Poor and inbred. They're just terrible living conditions in certain areas. And then you'll see black people who are rich and famous that have a lot of power, and fucking some are on the Supreme Court. There's a lot of mobility, a lot more. Okay.
It's not great, but it's better than some places, and it's better than it was.
It's a lot better than fucking most places. I can't think of any other place where it's better. I can't think of a better place where there's more mobility. And really, what it has to do with is that here it's a lot more likely that you're treated as an individual. Now, the difference is that you're treated as an individual based upon your economic power, how much money you have. But that's kind of the way it is everywhere. Money solves all problems.
There's Pookie.
Money solves all problems.
For those who were wondering where she was.
And that's not only like between races, that's within races. A rich white person is far more powerful than a poor white person. Far more. It's really the greatest fucking, what do you call it?
What you doing, Dwayne?
What you doing, Poop? She's trying to go back outside. The greatest factor that makes any difference in any people's lives is fucking money.
Well, yeah.
Doesn't have anything to do with race. It's money.
I mean, if you're rich, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
You can get away with pretty much anything. Yeah, I guess it's still fairly early. I think it's 8:36. Dan says, "Hey guys, been here all the while, just not well. Oh man, I hope you're feeling better." There, Dan. I mean, hopefully. Pokey, I heard her name. Yeah, she's like... Oh, okay. She wants to go out on the back porch. There's another kitty out there that she made friends with. Yeah.
In a true caste system, the money doesn't matter. It's just everything about family.
Xanadu says, I'm a poor white person. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I am also a poor white person. Right. But, I've always been a poor white person. It sucks, but, you get used to it after a while. Yeah, Pookie made a little friend. I don't know whose cat this is. It belongs to someone, I'm sure. It's not a stray cat. Who is gray, like her, and almost the same size as her. A little bit bigger, but kind of fluffier, obviously, as a tail. And they're like fascinated with each other. Yeah. I guess she came by. I don't know if the other cat's a female or not. But I guess she came by last night on the porch, and Pookie was out there sitting at the porch like they were looking at each other. And every now and then this other cat comes by at 2 or 3 in the morning, and I hear her out there going, meh, meh, meh. And then Pookie's at the window looking out going, there, she's here.
T's talking about black people she knew that worked in Korea, and they're asking about Africa. You hear something else funny about fucking the army. In the army, pretty much everybody got along. but you could tell who hung out with who. Okay, about kind of. Here's the weird thing. When you weren't on duty, African American guys and white guys wouldn't always hang out with each other. Okay, but what was funny is that guys that were from Africa, Haiti, or Jamaica that were in the Army pretty much only hung out with each other or with white guys. They didn't like African Americans. Yeah, they just didn't. And it has something to do with culture. They
Well, yeah, it's
they
more a
wouldn't
cultural
gravitate
thing than a race
towards
thing,
they
sure.
wouldn't gravitate towards African Americans. They'd hang out with fucking like Anglo Americans, fucking Jamaicans and Haitians and Africans. You know, there's just something about you would think there'd be a lot more of a difference, but no, it was kind of like dealing with Jamaica is like dealing with British. It's almost kind of like a British person. It's just culture had more to do with things than color did.
Yeah, in that situation.
And
I
the
can see that.
upbringing and the culture. Yeah.
Scott asked, is Pookie fixed? Yes, we got her fixed when she was still pretty young. She was probably only 6 or 7 months old. We got her fixed. So she's never had... I think she went into heat one time, like a week before her appointment. And that was the only time that happened. I have video of it because it was very sad and very funny. She was inside. But we would not let her out if we wouldn't let her run around in the backyard if she was not fixed. Because, we don't do that kind of shit. Both the kitties are fixed. So, all right. So we almost got to 4 hours. That's pretty good, huh?
Yeah, I mean, fucking the show's long as shit, but we ended the show, an hour ago? Everybody else is just hanging out?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
I mean,
All right,
I got
it's
through
free.
all the shit. I'm not super drunk.
Yeah.
We need an all Pookie show. We all need a Pookie show.
A Pookie show.
Yeah.
An all Pookie show?
I wonder
How long will that shit
I don't
last?
think... like 2 seconds.
Yeah, she'd be like, cut this. She'll run out. Yeah, you can't keep her.
Bye, I'm going to go play, and then I'm going to go sleep in my cat tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she would not hang out for that shit. It's like she'll come up and be like, what are you doing? Why are you not paying attention to me? But you know what I mean. Sometimes when we're watching TV or like watching a movie, she's mad that we're not paying attention. She'll jump up in front of the movie and then she'll just kind of like stand there. So all you can see is her little silhouette. You know, I call it Mystery Pookie Theater 3000 because you could see her little silhouette in front of the fucking movie all the time. All right, so you ready to wrap it up?
Yeah,
you look like you're about
Yeah.
ready to wrap
It's
it
early.
up.
Let's watch a movie.
Okay, yeah, it's not even 9 o'clock.
Tila,
yet.
watch that fucking Elvis fucking thing that I was telling you about. You'll like that.
Which one? The one that with
It's called Elvis in the Black Community. And then there's people reacting to it.
Oh, I thought it was the one with Kurt Russell in it.
No, it's a documentary that somebody put together on YouTube out of all the shit over the years that was recorded. They got down fucking Dixiecrat fucking Klan motherfuckers calling Elvis the N-word and breaking his fucking records and all kinds of shit. Fucking a lot of shit that they tried to fucking disappear over the years. Fucking about Elvis. Because back in the day, there was no YouTube. If something played on television, it played once and then it was gone. You couldn't record it. But now they brought up all these recordings and try to put a timeline of how that shit happened and the shit that he said and shit that he didn't say and then shit B.B. King said, shit that fucking oh shit, I'm fucking drunk. It's just shit that people said about him during the time. What James Brown said about him, you know. Just you'll see.
Lucy said, "Tell Pookie my 6 cats perk up when they see her."
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cute. It's like, hey, it's another kitty. Yeah, Pookie gets like that when she sees another kitty on the TV too. She's like, oh.
She says she's gonna watch that in 5 minutes.
It's a kitty.
Yeah, watch Elvis and the Black Community. Some kind of reaction, you know. They got dudes reacting. They got girls reacting. You'll see what I'm talking about. Usually it's one part 1 and part 2 because it's kind of long, maybe about a half hour. And then some of the songs, man, fucking, you know, like In the Ghetto and fucking, he had all kinds of really cool fucking songs. Elvis was the fucking Mississippi Messiah. And Orion, once he fucking rose up from the crypt. And he came back. When he came back to save us all.
Sure. All right.
All right, go ahead.
We gotta wrap this up, man.
Yeah.
I gotta pee. We gotta watch a movie. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. doing a matinee. Probably talk about season 1 of True Detective, which Sophie sent us on Blu-ray, which we just finished up watching last night.
If you guys haven't seen True Detective season 1, go ahead and watch it.
We haven't seen the other 2 seasons, but they're not related, so it's like it. But yeah, it was awesome. So we want to talk about that tomorrow. Also, Shudder just added The Dark and the Wicked, which a couple of people have requested that we review, so we'll probably do that one on Monday. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow for another live stream talking about a movie. I'm so happy that this shit didn't crash this time. Oh my god, I can't even tell you. So remember, like, share, subscribe on all your social media. Go to our Patreon. There's a link at the sidebar on our blog to go to a PayPal if you want to give a one-time donation. Anything that you guys can give, your support for the show is always much appreciated. We will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for dropping by. Bye.